Hello all, welcome to the Junkyard Love Podcast. It's me, your host, Jacob Brines. I'm happy you are here. This is episode number 2 in the Sense-Making Sickness series. My goal with this series was essentially to solve the problem or try to shine a light on the problem or put a magnifying glass or even just one point towards solving or figuring out or talking about the things that are happening in the world. What I mean by that is just kind of the overall madness, the inability to make sense, the inability to have the correct conversations, our descents into weird chaos, our group thinking, our tribalism, our echo chambers, our interaction and intertwining with social media and our social media avatars and news media and what news media is, and just this whole kind of conundrum that I think over the last few years especially, and certainly with the COVID-19 situation and the lockdowns and all of that, really shines a light on the fact that there is a something going on in the world at this moment. It's or in our world, even in our reality, in the life that we live as Americans or just people in the western side of the world, though the pandemic affects worldwide, of course. I think that we're getting to an influx point of kind of the next stage of what we need to be doing, of how we're going to be organizing as a culture and forming new unions or fixing what a union means, or but the first episode I had just pages and pages of notes. I had been working for a couple months on this, basically compiling any random thoughts, or I'm listening to podcast interviews, or I'm listening to lectures, or I'm reading books, and things that would stand out to me I would write down. I would jot down the notes, and then I would basically look at the pages of notes and then try to solve or fit together, okay, what does this all mean? How does this intertwine together? What's going on here, and how could I form it into words that somehow make sense and make it to where we can change our actions as individuals to be moving towards the path of this thing we have here, this civilization continuing, the civilization prospering, and people feeling good and happy and wholesome and fulfilled in their lives. Episode 2, I didn't even plan for this episode to be part of the Sense-Making Sickness series. It's things that my friend Abrielle and I talk about regardless. We kind of send long texts back and forth to each other, or we'll watch our own behaviors, or we'll observe how weird we're being on social media, or our social media addictions, or the way that we group think, the way that we catch our own biases, and things of that matter. And this conversation just kind of opened up right away into some concepts that I have been writing about and trying to think about and trying to figure out ways to present, through the podcast or through my YouTube channel or any of these things that facilitate my voice out to the world. Just something, how can I help us wrap our heads around this bigger conversation? What is this bigger conversation? Why are we not getting along so well? Why are we arguing? Why are we making so many bad other movements? Why are we, struggling to find homeostasis again? It just feels like there's so much division, there's so much inability to connect, and I think a lot of it we touch on in this episode. A lot of it we kind of point out, the effects of technology and the effects of this second overlay of reality that we've been living. Towards the end, I talk about some of Eric Weinstein's concepts around the WWE reality that we've been living in, the kayfabe, Amthgard, LARPing version of working a community and a governmental system. We're kind of doing the illusioned version of how to operate these these structures rather than actually doing them. So there is something interesting going on. I will end this intro here. We'll get going. This is the sense making sickness series. And I don't claim to be any sort of professional. Abrielle doesn't claim to be any sort of Harvard law degree person. She has her own expertise and her own levels of intelligence, which definitely greatly add to this. But neither of us are, I have no PhDs. I am a DJ and I do yoga. I'm not claiming to be absolute or entirely correct. I'm not claiming that I know things that other people don't. I'm not trying to downplay other people's ideas. I'm just trying to really stumble through what I feel may be going on, what I'm seeing in my own life and what seems to make sense to me. As a creative artistic thinker, these things are what enthrall me. I am fascinated by the concept of being able to see things before they happen, or view things from an outside perspective and hopefully help facilitate or usher, critical thought really towards the importance of these things. So again, I have no grandiose ideas that I am some sort of legend who solved all the world's problems. I don't even think we really even solved any problems here. I think we just kind of propose a couple perspectives that are worth contemplating, that I think that we all, as participants in this human experience, should be contemplating. So, no offense to anybody. If there's anybody, any of these groups that you identify with in this podcast that are mentioned and use as examples, if you know me or you're familiar with my work, I hope it's clear at this point that I have no ill intent. I just simply want to help. So that's what this is. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully this helps you spark some ideas of your own. Hopefully this helps you, even if you completely disagree with everything that I said, cool, make a video about it and put it out to the world. And, we can all make sense of the world a little bit better. And now we're one step closer to understanding what's really going on here. So without further ado, this is the Sense Making Sickness series, part 2 with Abrielle Dunn.
My note is a majority of the human experience is relaying and relating to people. And I don't feel like we're doing that. And that just comes from, I was thinking about conversations with you and conversations I have with other people, and then conversations I hear about that other people are having. And when I talk to you, and when I talk to a couple other people in my life, I have a close circle, and I'm really particular about who I talk to and what I talk to people about. And so I like conversations that we're conveying emotion and relating to each other. And when you and I talk, it's how are you feeling, and how are you getting through this thing, and how are you experiencing this? Even when we're talking about podcasts or work or things like that, it's the feeling behind it and how we're getting through it. It's not just a surface level, this thing happened.
Right.
And I'm noticing that when a lot of the differences that are happening between people politically and just it seems like whenever you get into a conversation with someone, there's an argument or friction or something like that. And we all can relate to each other on a human level. And I feel like we're forgetting that. And so a lot of the conversation is what's going on in your life? Oh, I'm working. And it's but how do you really feel? And how do you feel about those things? And I just feel like there's not that level of relating to people. And as humans, a lot of our experience is storytelling. That's how a lot of human history has happened. Just a lot of storytelling and relaying stories to people and relating. A lot of how we build ourselves is comparison and trying other people's personalities on and seeing what we like, seeing what we don't like. And so I think a lot of that growth that I experience in myself comes from relating to other people. You were working doing this. How did that make you feel? You were very stressed. How did it affect you? How did you deal with that stress? That kind of stuff. Rather than I have a job and, someone might say either I like it or I don't. and that's kind of all you get from it. Or, you know, I voted for this person. They don't even say I like them or I don't. It's just like, you just get friction. You don't really get any feeling or human emotion behind that stuff. And so I always just think about why aren't we having the conversations where we're exploring ourselves as people rather than, you know, just surface level, don't have anything to talk about.
Yeah. I think that's a really dope. I like that. I'm glad that you wrote that down because when we're talking, you know, when humans are interacting, we're trying to communicate something much deeper than the words. We're trying to facilitate with our mouth movements, the building of meaning or epiphany within the other person. You're trying to strike within them as you're talking. Here's what I mean. Here's what I'm feeling inside. But then but that's not with everybody. Like that's kind of how it feels, how it should feel, how the authentic conversation should feel. But then there's this other version of conversation that is, it's like the illusion of having the correct conversation. It's like this, here's what you do when you say someone, and I'm going to be good at that. Or here's what you do when you talk to someone, you make sure they know what group you're in really quick so they know that you're one of the good guys.
Right.
Like it's like instead of actually just opening our chests up and trying to find what in allowing the first instance of talking to someone or meeting someone to be like fully trusted, like I trust you, like I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt before I ever know you. It's almost like we walk up to each other with our guard up in a sense. Like we don't, like we have, I mean, I don't want to generalize it. The word ego is just so beat to a pulp. It's almost confusing at this point, but there is some like we approach as a character or a character of our own selves. Like we are meeting people and talking via our avatars rather than our actual lived inner experience. Does that correlate at all to what you're saying?
It definitely does. And I think a huge part of bonding with a person and actually finding a connection with a person is letting that down and expressing how you, because, you know, when you're talking to someone, one of the first times, if it's the first conversation, one of the first times you genuinely feel like, oh, I can connect with this person is when you both agree on something. Or, you know, I'm working, I'm really stressed, it's really hard right now. And the person you're talking to says, oh man, I'm really stressed too. I relate to that. I haven't even done my laundry. And then I hear other people, I haven't done my laundry either. And then we're like, oh.
Girl, I see you. Yep. I get it. Yep.
We connect. And it's just because it's that human emotion that you can connect with. You understand, you relate to that person. And so when we're talking about things, number one, that we don't understand, like politics and stuff, I'm not going to get into a political, economic debate or anything like that because I just don't. I can pay attention, but, you know, I don't understand the inner workings of anything that's going on. So, you know, when you say this person's made this choice in office, I'm just like, you know, I don't really, until, yeah, I mean, I try to care, but it's just like, it's not my job and it's not something I'm involved in. It's not one of the things that I choose to focus on. I'm not researching it every day. And so I just don't really relate, you know, when someone, if there is someone who is really into politics, this person is doing this thing. Did you see this person? Oh, it's going to affect this and all this kind of stuff. And just, no, I don't. And I don't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, did I cut you off? Keep going.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what popped in my head, actually, I just very recently, I think it was literally last night, I had an interaction with someone who, I get along with it totally fine. We're not very similar at all, but we get along totally fine. And, just casually yesterday, I asked, oh, hey, you going to watch the Super Bowl on Sunday? You got any Super Bowl plans? You know, just kind of the small talk thing. And, his response was, nah, I'm going to take the knee on that one. I've been boycotting that thing for years. And he kind of goes off on a little spiel. And it's interesting because I instantly saw, oh, for me to have like, if I want to have an actual conversation with him, like an open, like let's express like how I actually feel. Let's be authentic to myself. Let's stand up for things that I believe in. Let's explain to this person things that I know that he may not know. So then we can almost problem solve. We can connect. We can find ways to connect, because I didn't agree instantly with his comments about people taking the knee or whatever. Because it's like within what he said was this whole like back door, like this whole explosion waiting to happen. And that's kind of like how a lot of our conversations have gotten, right? Especially when it's politics or anything that they give into that political lens, or the news media is pointing cameras at and saying, this is important, look at this is what everybody should argue about and fight about. So I basically chose to, like, oh, okay, basically say very little, like, oh, okay, yeah, it's pretty crazy, I don't know, just basically not interact with him fully, because I started with friendly, right? I started with like, hey, you got any plans? Like, are you gonna hang out with your wife and have some nachos and watch Super Bowl? Like, cool. I hope you have a good weekend, whatever. But we throw up these like, there's a lot of like sentences that are said nowadays that indicate, hey, I'm team Wokistan, I'm team Magistan, I'm team anti-knee, I'm team knee. Like, what all these different things that we're going through as a culture that are very shining light on. They become too much. They become these like ticking time bombs of conversation. And so we're self-editing ourselves. Where, if I have 65 interactions like that, where I'm just trying to have the small talk, I'm just saying, hey, I hope you have a good weekend. Like, oh, what are you up to? Oh, you're going to go kayaking. That sounds awesome. Have a good time. Like, if I get shut down too many times by people going like, I ain't going kayaking. Like, I don't support the kayaks because they're sold at I don't know, whatever. Like, so I get, okay. So trying to wind it back in, but so have authentic conversations become so complicated because we are coming from different levels of not only meaning within, but just information, like the amount of, like, I'm not trying to invalidate what he was saying. Like, he might have seriously listened to 12 hours a day for the last six years of information that supports his cause and why it's correct and why it's very wrong to him. And I don't know, I haven't listened to the same things as him. So we're all we're educated in different ways of our own misinformations that's been given to us. So
I think that I think you're right in that we come to all situations sort of with not necessarily a mask, just with a little bit of hesitation, not really sure how much I should relate to you, where you stand. Are you the type of person who, when I say I like blue, you're going to just throw up in arms that red is the right color or something like that? Or will you be okay that, like, there's a lot of colors on the spectrum, I've chosen blue, it's okay? Or do we not have to talk about how do we feel about the color, that kind of thing? And that's a very vague example, but yeah, I feel like it's also, I don't know, I'm very vocal about how much I am aware of myself, and I'm very I say I'm very emotionally intelligent, but I think what I am is just very conscious of myself. And I don't want to say I'm self-conscious, but I'm conscious of myself. And I think about the way I say things, the words I say. And it's just, when you talk to somebody, I don't know how conscious of yourself you are. And so can I talk to you about the way I'm feeling about what's going on? Can I talk to you about, like, just bringing it back to politics, the only politician I really pay attention to is Tulsi Gabbard, because I love her. She's dope. And She's dope. Yeah, one of the things that I really like about her is that she breaks it down from, there are all these policies and topics to talk about, but like, do you love your family? Do you want the best for your family? When you go to school, do you want a good education? When you, get sick, do you want to be able to get treatment? If your mother gets sick and she's going to die, do you want her to be able to get treatment? It's just like those kinds of things. And she's like, we need to develop this baseline as humans and then figure out how we can go forward. And it takes compromise and it takes this and that. But that's where I feel like, people get up in arms. This thing just happened and, this person released it's hard for me to even, like, I'll just say something and I know nothing about it. So, but just like, this person released this tax plan and it's gonna make this, this, and this happen. And oh my God, it's an outrage, and these things like that. And I'm just like, number one, I don't even know what that means. Number two, I haven't researched it enough to even know if what you're saying is true. So I don't know if I should agree with you, not agree with you, listen to you, trust what you're saying. Where did you get your information? That's number two. And number three, like, what does it mean for people? Like, how is it affecting me? Is it something that I want? Is it one of the baseline foundational things that I want? Is it something that's going around something to be like sneaky? And, you know, I don't understand these things enough. And I feel like a lot of these conversations are happening that we just don't understand. And people get really defensive and they don't take the time to understand. And we're not relating to people. When we have these conversations that we have all this friction and we bump heads, I'm trying to take a step back and be like, why do you feel this way that you feel? Why is this person so up in arms about something I don't even think they understand fully? Definitely, I don't understand it fully. If I don't understand it fully, I can't imagine how much this person understands it. And just like, what is going to make you feel so hard-headed or stubborn about feeling this way? Like, why are you so passionate about this thing? Where does it come from? I want to understand those things. And I feel like that's definitely not the conversation we're having. People are just so upset about, this is happening on this side, this is happening on this side, whatever's going on. I've honestly stopped paying attention because it's just so two-sided. And I want to have the conversations where we connect with each other as people. And I'm having a lot more of those conversations rather than like one side, other side, surface.
Yeah, totally. Wow, that really opens it up into some good thinking, because I feel like we can kind of sense, when you interact with someone who is very caught up in the news cycle media, like who has been watching these things every day, like they're in Facebook groups about it. They're, and I'm, left, right, this popular thing, like you're attacking the BLM, you're attacking the pedophile ring, you're attacking the Antifa, like all these different aspects, that our news media and our technological connected culture here gives us to argue about or talk about or say, hey, here's this identity. Do you belong or do you not belong? And
Right.
we're like, oh, I belong to that one. That's mine. I want to make sure everybody that I interact with knows that. We're almost, I really keep framing this as we're talking about this. I keep framing this around, just like our initial walk up to someone, like like when you first talk to someone, like, because sometimes I feel like nowadays, and I don't remember this from before, maybe I was just vastly unaware of it. There's resentment, like people, like we carry auras of resentment towards people who are not in the room, and we accidentally project it onto the person in front of us. And it's so when someone goes to meet you, if they're, say, a far right person, far right, and let's say they love Donald Trump, they're huge Trump fans, and they approach you, and you're wearing, I don't know, an Andrew Yang shirt, or you're wearing even like a rainbow shirt, and they indicate like, oh, this is a left person. Like they're instantly coming at you from their avatar of, here's what I'm the person on the right, I'm talking to this person on the left. So it's almost just like, so, rather than a, hey, how are you? Like what's real about you? How has your human experience been so far? Like we come from this place of thinking we know, but we have to approach each other as if we don't know shit, because that's the truth. We don't know shit. You don't know shit about the person across from you.
So true. I always approach, I've recently, not so recently, but in the past handful of years of my life, I have become, so I went through a whole transition in my life of being, when I was younger, I was very annoying, and I was very self-conscious about being very annoying. And I'm sure people today would argue I'm still annoying, but I'm okay with it. But when I was younger, I was told I was annoying so often that I just shut down and stopped talking. I was like, I'm not going to be annoying. I'm not going to be myself. I'm just going to be whatever people think I should be. And I'll just be quiet and not be told I'm annoying. And that just formed my personality in that I wanted to be whatever anyone wanted me to be. Whereas recently, like I said, last handful of years, probably 4 or 6 years, I'm like realizing that I need to come into every situation exactly as I am, because the only people I want around me are those who love me for exactly as I am. And I don't want to put on any type of facade. I don't want to fit into a category. I don't want to be who you want me to be. I want you to like me for who I am, or we just won't connect, and that's okay. But there was someone who brought it to my attention, or, you know, like I just heard it at the right time in my life. They said, don't hide from me what you don't want me to see. Let me see it and let me make my own judgment. And I was like, that's so true. And it was hard to hear, but just that statement like launched me into just being 100% myself. I'm transparent. I'm authentic. The job we both have, when I interviewed for it, I normally would be nervous because I wanted to be exactly who they wanted me to be. But I went into that interview very calm and very like relaxed. This is who I am. You know, I did my research. I know about the company. Here's how I think I can be valuable. Here's what I know about you. Here's what I'm passionate about. And I just went in there like, this is me. If you want me, then we're going to be good. If you don't want me, then this isn't an opportunity I want.
Yeah. Did you freeze?
And a lot of that, the projecting, I'm really working on. But when we come into a conversation with another person and we're projecting, it just changes the entire experience. And so I think understanding ourselves, relating to other people more, when we understand other people, we become more able to understand ourselves. And so when we relate to other people, when we come into the conversation open and without those boundaries and know what we can be projecting onto them and realizing it, hopefully in the moment, but you know, sometimes we have to analyze those things afterwards. I just think I think you're right. A lot of people, especially with politics and just, I don't even know if people can project with politics. Like, how do you, I don't know, maybe you're
I think I know this about you.
What?
Just yeah, basically saying that or feeling that, assuming that they know what they need to know about the other person and assuming they know what they need to know about themselves even.
Yeah, or experiencing, feeling that you feel a certain way and I know you feel the same way, but really you have no idea that other person, you know, like a lot of the work that I do is very stressful. People think that I should be very stressed, but I have learned to manage my stress. I don't feel a lot of the stress. And so you can't put stress onto me. You can't project that onto me. You can't say I'm feeling stress or my job is really hard because I don't feel that way. And I feel like that's a very small and very specific example. But when we put each other into these boxes, there's no way to relate to somebody if you're already putting them in a box. Stereotyping, categorizing, pigeonholing, like you said, being a left person, seeing a right person, you've put each other in these boxes. And it's once you put the box, I want to say once you put the wall up, it's so much harder to break it down than if you come into the conversation without the wall in the first place.
Do you think that we have a lot of people approaching each other from behind their own walls without realizing it. Like I think a lot of this is past our awareness. I think a lot of, I mean, I feel like already what we've been talking about is I started this sense making sickness series with my friend Spencer, and we kind of basically wanted to solve what the fuck is going on. Like, why is everyone losing their mind? Why are we acting insane? And why are we acting childish? And what the hell is going on? So, uh, I recorded that episode. It's been a couple months now, and Spencer and I still like we text back and forth every few days, trying to solve these like kind of concepts or trying to investigate what's going on. I consume a ton of content. I do a lot of writing. I haven't even gotten to where I feel comfortable making the second part, and I wanted to make it like a 5-part series because it's so complex and confusing to me. But I think we're kind of like pointing right at this area is there is something going on now more than ever, like over the course of the last few years, let's say 10 years, I guess, our communication, our connection is weird. Like obviously it's advancing. 'Cause, I mean, like, look what we're doing right now. Like we're talking in real time. You're all the way across the same country. Like,
Yeah.
like to where there's 3 hours difference in time, but we're still talking at the same, time here. It's so cool, but I think that it's happened so fast that we're almost just like as human species, we're confused and we don't know that we're confused or something. Um, I guess there's certain types. I mean, like you and I, like we enjoy philosophical thought. Like we enjoy like complex layers of thinking to solve, to solve some sort of problem that's posed. But I think a lot of people aren't like that at all, and they never stop and think. I mean, awareness itself, this book, Anthony DeMaio, Awareness, like I read that, and I mean, I was kind of into a lot of that stuff at that point, but he basically talks you through like, who is the one, like, what's the point of you talking right now? Like, where's the person? Where's your mind? Where does it sit? Is it inside your brain? Are you a little man inside your head? Like, have you ever thought about these things before? Are you aware that, like, how do you move your right arm? Just all these, like, kind of surface level things, but we see past the surface level because we approach situations with assumptions, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But there seems to be, how do I round this out? I think if we continue to do things the way in which we have been doing them over the course of the last 4 years, like whether we're talking about like the crazy arguing with social media and politics and news and all that, I think that's like a good, that's a good thing to point the camera at, but that's just like a symptom of our underlying underneath here. There's this weird communication barrier thing where we don't understand what meaning is, we don't understand what feelings are, we don't understand what the human condition really is, and we can't certainly we don't know how to relate it to the fucking GDP, like
Yeah.
like the GDP doing well. What does that have to do with like people I went to school with, like committing suicide and like wanting to take their own life and being like just not doing mentally well and not being able to stay on their feet? Like these things are very well connected, but the conversation gets like, why is it taboo? It's so strange that it's taboo, that it's weird, that it's uncomfortable to talk about actual human feelings, actual things that are happening. Even, it's kind of what our culture does with death. We just kind of avoid talking about it. And if anybody gets anywhere near it, we're like, please don't do it. Please save them. Anything to save them. We don't talk about the value of life, the lived experience. Like, how are we making every moment more fulfilling rather than just trying to extend the meter of the length you're alive? It's, I don't know. How do, like, do you see, does it feel, I guess, Abrielle, does it feel like this to you? Does it feel like over the last, as you've like grown and changed yourself and just gotten older and just, learned more too, does it feel like that to you? Does it feel like we have a weird communication misinformation barrier?
So I want to say, I'm glad you said that it feels like it's taboo for us to talk about our human emotion, because one of the things that really bugged me about business and corporations and things like that is that a lot of the old thinking was that people are pieces of a machine, and you replace the parts of the machine that aren't working as fast and as well as you want them to. And this person or this part of the machine, you know, needs to go faster. Let's get rid of what's there and get something that's cheaper and quicker and does the job better or just more efficiently, rather than seeing them as people. And I know that there's a whole movement of, I think they're called B corporations, where they just care more about the people that work for them and treating their people correctly. And I haven't looked into them in a long time, but it was a few years ago that I learned about them. And it was just about treating the people you work with and the people who work for you as actual humans. And I'm glad you said that it feels like it's taboo to experience human emotion, because a lot of the time I think the experience is that you go into a job and you're an employee and you just work and then you go home, and the job just doesn't experience you after you go home. And if you miss a day, it's like, what the hell, do you want to be fired? Like, you're not here working? Or I'm late. Why are you late? Like, you should be here on time. There's nothing else in your life that should, you know, like, why isn't the machine working? What's wrong with this part of the machine? You need to do better, you know? And it's like, you could have a whole family emergency. That old way of thinking, I think there wasn't enough understanding. There wasn't enough compassion. There wasn't enough empathy. And that's the way I am, is I always try to have the human emotion side of it. Whenever I work with people, I see you as a human. And if you're late on a project, like, what's going on? And, you know, people don't deliver on deadlines. I have a family emergency. I can't just be like, okay, deal with your family emergency. You had a deadline. Like, I'm sick. I can't work. And you know, like, need to push the deadline. Like, I understand you're laying in bed, like, with a flu. You're not going to be able to, even if it's, you know, all this working from home stuff, it's hard when you're feeling dead, coughing, just want to go to sleep, have a headache, and your eyes closed, like, wanting to get on your computer. I just wish there were more of that everywhere. Just more of understanding people, more understanding of, like, you woke up today, were you hungry? Could that have affected the way you interacted with people until you ate breakfast? You know, like, did you snap at someone and you didn't have enough water? Like, what could be humanly going on with you that made you react in this way? So a lot of these people who are very, you know, all I can say is, like, friction, people that have a lot of friction or come into conversations very closed-minded. Like, how's your diet? Like, do you exercise? Like, how often do you think about your actions? Are you conscious of what the way you're saying what you're saying can affect the other person? Do you think about it? And if you're not the type of person who thinks about those types of things, what kind of person am I speaking to? You know, like, what are you aware of in your own world? And how can I like rotate my lens about you as a person in our conversation to see, like, where you're coming from?
Yeah, I really like where you're taking this, because I feel like the whole time I've been thinking, gosh, why doesn't this person practice their awareness? Like, why don't they see that they're feeling these emotions, rather than where you just took it? And I think that's important, is how could I better understand where he actually is? Like, I guess trying to understand where he is so I can try to get him to think more like me isn't really, like, super helpful. And that's another way to get this other person who is, you know, someone who's just stuck to that friction, like you said. That's a good way to get them to shut down. I mean, nobody wants to, like, if I approach someone and they're like, you're coming at me all wrong, you need to restart, I'd be like, what? You know, like, what? So how do we, okay, instead of allowing me to be thinking, gosh, see, that's the conundrum, though, is because so many times I'll think about this stuff and I'm like, dude, these motherfuckers, they just need awareness. They need awareness of their own feeling. Because me, if I'm having a conversation or even if I'm just like, Tyler and I are having a beer after a show and we're both, just getting kind of fired up, I'll notice like if I'm, oh, okay, I'll apologize even. Oh, geez, sorry. Hey, I was getting fired up. I'm really passionate about that subject. I'll notice the state that I'm in as I'm in it. And if it's going too far, if it's tipping the canoe a little too far, if we're getting a little bit of water in the boat, I'm going to be like, okay, but I love you. I appreciate your conversation, brother. Like, thank you for listening to me. I don't mean any harm. Let's let off the throttle a little bit so now you can say what you need to say. And that's how a conversation works. Conversations can be passionate. Conversations can be heated. Conversations can be, fueled by real inner emotions, but they can't have like a whole fog, a whole like protective screen over them to where you don't even get to those underlying emotions, where it's just, I assume I know
Absolutely.
what you're talking about.
Absolutely. I definitely feel that. I was going to say that the conversations definitely depend on those emotions, but we're not even getting there because we're so in this, I like what you said, fog, or like those walls that fog up, we're behind like plexiglass that just fogged. And, like we can see the other person, like we can see that they're there, but we don't like understand that they're a person like us. Like we can just kind of see their form, and it's like, oh, that's definitely a person, but we can't understand them. We can't connect with them because there's just like this foggy glass between us. And the connection comes from those emotions and that passion that you're talking about. And I don't know, there are just some people who, I don't know if they're not aware or if they just don't think about things, or their mind is just closed, or they haven't. I think I was exploring something recently, and I don't remember specifically what it was, but I kind of wanted to test it on my family to see what they thought about it. And so my thinking was like something, I don't even remember it, but it was something to the effect of like, there can be multiple ways to think about this. And I realized like there can be multiple ways to view this or think about this, or multiple outcomes from this thing. And I went to my family and they actually said whatever I was thinking of and the topic I was talking about. And they were just like, straight minded, there's only this way, no one can be any different. And I was like, when you say that, are you sure? Like, what if someone else, thinks a little bit differently? Maybe they don't agree that the answer is no. Maybe they think the answer can be yes sometimes. And they were all just like, no. And go ahead.
So what that exact moment where they're just like, no, what are you talking about? Like, where they reject, to me that's a truth. Like what you point out, like, don't forget about other existing perspectives, because there's almost 8 billion people in the world, and they say no. Like what is that moment? Like what's happening within them? And is that wrong, or is there a different way we can approach it? Or do they feel, maybe they feel as if they're being attacked, as if we're saying you're wrong, and we just don't like being wrong so much that we're like, I'm gonna double down on my shit. Is that?
Yeah. I don't know. And it was funny to me, number one, because it was something I had already been like building and thinking about, and they just brought it up without even me initiating something. But it just showed me that people who I relate to and understand and really like, they're literally my family, like my parents and my brother, my relatives, we're blood related. Some of the most intelligent people I know are not thinking about this. I don't even remember what it was, but they aren't even considering that other people can think other things or feel differently about this topic. And they were just like, no. And I brought up all the things I had been thinking about, what if someone has this experience, maybe they could say yes. What if this person, maybe they would feel yes, or yes sometimes, or yes, at some point or in some capacity. And they were just like, that's dumb. No. And I don't even know if it was something defensive that they would, try and they feel in themselves and would try to defend or get offended by. But it just seemed like they hadn't considered there could be a yes.
okay, so sometimes this level of conversation is intimidating and taxing on people. So
For
like,
sure.
so maybe kind of what's going on is you are approaching as just an inquisitive philosophical thought thinker, a thought
Hmm.
thinker, and in and that's just how you enjoy interacting. Um, but but if other people don't, it almost feels like a challenge. Like, so you're just saying like, wait, don't you want to explore? Like, let's let's see if we can get closer to truth together, you know? Like what, because I mean, if you're anything like me, it's basically like it when someone else opens up and they allow me to like, climb inside their brain for a second, and they climb inside mine and we're trying to solve this thing. Because for me, I'm thinking in real time, I'm thinking out loud, I'm letting it like fall out because I think that's so fun. I think that's like one of the more beautiful things of life. We don't know what we're going to think next. We don't know what we're thinking about. We don't know what we're going to say next. You know, we, and I think it's so fun to recognize, like right now, it's like, it's not right on the surface, but deep down, layers down, there's this thing where Abrielle, you and I both, we've been here for less than 30 years apiece, and we don't really know the truth about the universe. We're both trying to figure it out. So like, why don't we try to figure it out together? Like, oh, maybe it means this, maybe it means this. So you can't just approach everybody with that level of inquisitory nature because I guess I'll ask you what happens there when you do come at someone who is not trying to inquire on their belief systems at all times. What happens within them when you come at them with this, hey, let's challenge your belief systems?
I
Like,
can tell you from personal experience, they just get annoyed. Like I'm asking, like, why would you think about it? Like, what does it matter? Like, why does it matter what you said? It's in the past. Like, why would you analyze it? Or why would you be thinking about all these philosophical things? Like, does it affect you? Does it matter? Is it going to change your experience? They don't even get that far. They're just like, why am I going to spend my time thinking like that? And I don't, it's a hard, thing to explain. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Don't you want to see where your mind goes with these things? And I think that's just a difference in personality. It's a difference in culture. It's a difference in, it's just a difference in people. Some people want to have these deep philosophical conversations and we can go for hours about it. And then some people just think it's a waste of time. Why would I got a lot of stuff to do. Like, why would I sit here and think about these things?
Right. Yeah, because okay, so have you ever had and feel free to say no if you don't want to talk about it on a podcast. Have you ever had like any not necessarily like psychedelic experiences, but any like mind altering where your consciousness is different, like even through like extensive breath work or lots of yoga where you can kind of get into like let's just say altered states of consciousness. I mean, like you've been drunk before, like
Yeah,
things like
I
that.
wouldn't say I've been in anything like drastically different.
No, not much.
But I've been in situations that have completely changed the way I feel about things and the way I act and things like that. But
Okay.
I've been pretty sober.
Yeah, that's pretty similar. I mean, because I've gotten to different, you know, levels of mind where I'll have it's not so much about the experience. Like I'll have an experience, So if this is not what I'm talking about, but if someone has say they take psychedelics and they have a mystical experience, then their life has changed forever. But the thing that happens is their perception of who they are, what they're doing, what they should do with their life, what it means to be alive, what's the meaning of life, like all these things can be shifted, and that changes your perception, which in turn changes the interactions that you have and how you have them after. So I've had, just within the last, maybe 3 years or so, I've had a few experiences like this, like where, and I've talked about this, it's just totally weird, but I had a lot of trauma healing and, a lot of just doing a lot of yoga and breath work and cannabis and all this stuff. In it changed my perception of what I thought. And then also a lot of just philosophy. Like you can listen to a lot of philosophers, you take a few days and listen to the same philosopher, like you listen to just nothing but Terrence McKenna or Alan Watts or Ram Dass or something for a few days and like have no interaction with people, your perception about the world around you will certainly change. And that fascinates me as someone who is very interested in philosophy and psychology. I like, oh my God, it fills me up. I love to do it. It seriously excites me. but those changes in perception, I think, to other people, when they're approached or when people see them coming, they're almost so scary, because a lot of people in our culture, and this is not a bad thing, I'm just saying this is like a product of our, late stage capitalism culture we have here. We're trying to constantly define ourselves so we can stick to that identity. And then we're trying to approach our situations with the assurance of the other person knowing our identity. And I think that, I think that, I guess I'm trying to find a bridge over to identity, because I think what I'm trying to say is that our identity often blocks us from realizing true inner feelings that, like, as a human, they're gifts, but we kind of have blocked ourselves from feeling what's real inside of us. And we instantly go back to, like, what would my avatar do? What would my avatar say?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because our identity blocks us from our experiencing our feelings, is what you said.
Yeah.
Our identity blocks us from really, like, experiencing who we are, or the identity, like, the identity wall that we want to put up.
Being stuck to our identity, that's the identity that's not fluid, because the reality of our identity is it's fluid. It's just like water, it's changing at all times, but we can't conceptualize that.
Yeah, I think we can't actually, our true identity, like you're saying, flows, but I don't think we can understand that we can't understand ourselves, I think, without understanding other people, and then bringing it back to ourselves, feeling how that feels, understanding ourselves a little bit more, bringing ourselves out to others, seeing how it, turns up with them, coming back, and, like, just this constant, like, back and forth, and realizing, like, a lot of me trying to not be annoying is, I would, like, try something out and I would say something at some volume level. I used to be very loud. I'm still very loud, and it's funny being around my family, they're all yelling, and I'm like, why are we all yelling? Like, can't we just be a little bit calmer? And they're like, what are you talking about?
They're like, you made us go to this level because you used to yell yourself.
Exactly. So it's just, everyone in my family is very loud, and I always used to be very loud. So I would approach situations where I was very loud and very, like, up and outspoken and just all over the place, and people would tell me I'm annoying and weird, and so I would just come back and, like, see how that feels. Yeah, I would hold it, and a lot, and but you learn from that. And so instead of just being, like, all in your face and being loud and just talking fast and all these, my dad always tells me to slow down, and so I come out a little bit and I see how it works out, and I come back and I'm like, okay, how did we feel about that? They didn't say I was annoying. Did I care what they thought about me in that experience? Like, how did I feel about that in the experience? Did I feel like I was being annoying? I felt like, I saw their face. Maybe they didn't like it when I reached this level, that kind of thing. And then, like, you see how you can interact with certain people. You see that certain people want you to be quiet. Certain people want you to be louder. And you can kind of see how you can just, like, maneuver yourself. But in all of that maneuvering, like, where is your base? And I've realized my base is this calm, light, happy, optimistic realist that I bring the best into situations. And if people are feeding up to the higher levels and stuff, maybe I can get louder and I can get a little bit faster and we can go back and forth and do all this stuff. But if the situation is I can be more towards my base, then we can have a slow conversation and we can, be at this level and those kinds of things. So I feel like people need, in order for people to be more understanding of everyone else, cliche, they need to start with themselves. We need to understand ourselves more. But it's really hard and it takes a long time. And I've been working on myself a lot. And one of the things I've always believed, I think I was thinking about this in, like, 10th grade. So what's that? Like 2, 4, 8, 10 or 12 years ago, My biggest thing is I don't do New Year's resolutions. I do new changes every day. Every day, something about me should be different. And I'm just my New Year's resolutions by the end of the year, by the next year, I should be exponentially different because I'm changing every single day.
Evolving.
And yeah. And so this idea that like, I'll wait until next week, I'll wait until next month, I'll wait until tomorrow. I don't believe in that. Because God forbid a meteor strikes and like, you know, or the person you're thinking of wanting to be different with gets in a car accident, or you like, I just smashed my face into the door the other day and like I couldn't open my eyes. And like my first thought was like, I'm so disoriented. Oh my God, what if I'm blind? And like those things can happen just so like, you could fall and like hit the corner of a table and knock one of your eyes out and, you know, never have depth perception again. And it's just, those kinds of things are so real. Some people think I'm pessimistic for thinking that way, but it's a presence. You get a presence from thinking that way, thinking that any interaction you have with someone could be your last one. Like, somebody leaves in the heat of the moment, that could be the last thing you guys ever say to each other. If you like, you never know. And so it's a big deal to me, the interaction. And that's why I'm so conscious of being in the moment. And that's one of the biggest things I've always worked on, is because when I was in college, I got straight A's, which means I studied my ass off. I got straight A's, but I didn't have a lot of life experience. You know, I did a lot of like studying, and people went out to football games and I was reading my boring ass history book. Like I did a lot of that. And so a lot of my time was I'm rushing from one place to another while reading and thinking and listening to something on my way to going somewhere. And I was never present. And then when I started working while I was in school. So I did school full time, and then I worked as full time as possible. And I was just going from so much. And I would get to like, I think I talked to you about this last time, actually. I would get into a situation. I'd be like, yeah, like this is great. I just got to go do this next thing. And like, I'd always be like on the ready to go do the next thing. And I would never just like be here. So that's one of the things that I really have been working on. And I think that is important. And not enough people, in my experience, understand what being here means.
Right. I mean, it's something that definitely, because I dealt with a lot of disassociation when I was younger. It's like a trauma response, basically. You know, like the pain of the moment is so severe that your mind protects you from it by floating the fuck away. So it was pretty profound for me too. Like it was like 3 years ago when I started meditating and doing yoga and stuff, learning about the present moment, and what that really means. Like it's so weird to me that that's so profound. Like it was so changing, like life altering, changing to me to discover like, oh wow, like you're thinking at all times. You're thinking like we have 60,000 thoughts a day or something like that. That's crazy. We don't think we are. We're just a ball of thoughts and habits walking around, but we think we're completely in control. We're like, yeah, I'm choosing what to think next, whatever. That's kind of like a lot of my philosophy in life as it's still unfolding. You know, I'm still trying to figure out like really what is something that what's a value and things that like I think will stick with me throughout my whole life. Like this is just who I am. This is who I'm going to always be, because I'm a very changing, fluid person. I love changing. I love evolving. I love the same thing like you were talking about. But a lot of my philosophy lately is with all self-actualization is basically how do I, in each moment that I am given, how do I enjoy it to its fullest? Because I'm aware that we're not going to arrive anywhere. Like I'm not like, how can I work my ass off now so I can retire and have 50 margaritas a day until I pass out and drown in the pool? You know, like I want to, the life that you live, like we don't take any of this with us. We the things that we think we are, the ego mind, like our identity, our identification with our name and who we are, it's just, it doesn't go into black nothingness of suffering when we're gone. It's just gone. We don't experience, we're not the conscious experiencer of it. So while you do have this experience, while you do have this life, how could I absorb it more fully? How could I be more here in each moment? Because like you said, what if I suddenly, like, I'm not really there, and I'm at dinner with my friend, and we're having a beer or whatever, but I'm really distracted. I'm on my phone, and I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, Frank, yeah, whatever, like, see you later. And then he gets in a car wreck on the way home. Like, I'd be like, wow,
Yeah.
I sure wish that I would have been more present with him. And it's not about, like, finding places that you regret and trying to stamp out regret before it happens, but I think so. I had a friend, actually, Abrielle, who, when we were in high school, phenomenal skateboarder, cool dude, one of my good buddies. He was cleaning his room. Get this, he was cleaning his room, and he had an armload of stuff, like, and he was trying to open the door, like finishing up cleaning his room, I think. And in his arm was a handheld, I think handheld pellet gun that happened to be loaded, happened to not have the safety on. In opening his doorknob, it fell, hit his knee, shot his own eye out. Yeah, literally happened when we were kids. Like, I mean, just so you never would have thought, in watching, like, the beauty of that human, man, just like watching him relearn how to skateboard, like relearn how to, like, do all these things and experience this, like, tragic loss of losing all the vision in one eye and having a replacement eye and stuff. That could happen at any moment. Like, at any moment, we could be trying to open the damn door with too much shit in our hands and shoot our eye out. So it's not about trying to avoid those moments. It's not about never being uncomfortable. It's not about listening to our fear and staying in our safe caves so nothing bad ever happens and we can plan everything and control everything. It's about, while you're being courageous, while you're living life, while you're looking for different, sometimes difficult, sometimes easy, sometimes fun, sometimes not as fun experiences, it's basically, how do you be more present with it? How do you really be there? How do you really breathe in each moment to its fullest? To me, that's what it's all about.
I'll tell you, there was, because of the way our job works, and there's a real season and then you're off. When I first started, I completely disappeared mentally during our show season, and then I was able to, like, recover. And I mean, I was also younger and not as aware of myself as I am now. I would say I've always been aware of myself, but we're just always growing. So when I first started, and I've been doing this job for 4 years now, when I first started, it was like I disappeared. I wasn't mentally, like, my life was work. I would stay up all night and work. Any work that needed to be done got done. I would just keep working. I'm available 24/7. You call my phone, I answer it, and I get on whatever I needed to get on to do. I would skip eating. I would skip exercising. I would skip all this stuff because I don't have time, because I have to work. And what I've fallen into, or what I didn't fall into it, it was intentional. What I've changed is that I need my own base, and I add work into it. So I haven't missed a workout. I haven't missed a meal. I've shopped specifically for my busy schedule. Like, I buy pre-chopped vegetables. I buy easy to make meals. I do those things that make my life easier, but I don't work all day. I do my other things and I add work in, and I don't disappear. I don't, like, I realize I'm a human, and sometimes when I'm working so much and staring at a screen and just sitting there for hours, that I lose track of time and forget that I need to breathe and take a break and drink a glass of water and just, like, decompress for a second. And I think you were talking about the vagus nerve and just getting out of the stress space, mm-hmm. and just grounding yourself and realizing, like, I'm here on Earth, and there are, like, bugs and leaves and nature and planes flying in the air and all these kinds of things going on, that, like, what's in my laptop and in my phone are so like such a small percentage of my experience as a human. And it's taken me a long time to realize that. And I'm a hard worker, and I still want to say, like, I don't want to identify with being a workaholic. I think I'm a little bit of a workaholic, but like, I also want to take time for myself, and I want to work a lot during the weekdays so that the people who have actual schedules, when they're relaxing on the weekend, I want to be able to relax with them. Like, I want to be present. I don't want to disappear during the busy times. I don't want to, like, we have a lot of shows in March. I don't want to disappear in March and just watch March go by. That's one of the things we always talk about, is we forget what happens in our show season, and we forget, and it just buzzes by, and then suddenly it's June and we're like, what happened? And then we go into it next year and we're like, well, what did we do last time? And we're like, I don't even remember. We just disappear. I'm not doing it anymore.
Okay, I feel like what we're kind of talking about, I'm not trying to oversimplify, but it just seems like gratitude, honestly. Like gratitude. Really, just like remembering to, even though work can get exhausting, even though work can get tiring, like there is things that you love about it. There's definitely things you love about it. There is a point where it's like, I've been working a lot. I've been building up to this thing. And like, especially for shows, for us, it's like weeks and weeks of work, like for you, especially as like the facilitator of like the middle person of all these things. And then also doing all the graphics and organizing everything, and talking to everybody and planning all the flights and all this stuff. Like, that's so stressful. And sometimes it is so fast paced. There's so many moving parts that you don't always get to slow down and be like, hey, I know I'm booking your flight and we're waiting for a response, but we should really remember to value this moment. You can't always bring the present moment into just cut through everything and be like, hey, remember the present moment. But I think that there is times where you do have to insert it. So for us, the live events, there is a moment where it's almost, you want to take off your headphones and just like, this looks good. We did this. Like, wow, like I'm proud of myself. Like this is an experience. Like, if on my deathbed, if there's some sort of like memory flashbacks, boom, 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 what am I proud of? Like, I hope, maybe this is one of them. Hope it is, because I'm proud of this and this is good. Like, wow, like this is good. What does it smell like? What does it feel like? What clothes am I wearing? Just really being present with that moment. So do you think that not being present takes away our ability or our connection as a human species to feel gratitude?
I would say yes. Not being present keeps us from feeling gratitude, which stops us from connecting with other people. And I think it's a different type of person, someone who is grateful for a lot in life. I think gratitude comes from a lot of pain. And I think compassion and understanding comes from a lot of pain. And it's hard to expect a lot of people to be grateful and compassionate when they haven't experienced that type of pain. And so, like, people who their parents have died and their friends have died and they themselves have gone through their own ego death or experienced just a lot of like a really hard point in their lives. When you have gone through that, you can relate to someone who has gone through something painful as well. And so something that we've talked about before, and I was talking to my trainer about, is I talked to you last time about I was going to the gym and I just didn't feel like I was good at working out. I didn't feel like my body looked good. I didn't feel like all these things. And she reminded me, Abrielle, you're forgetting your gratitude. Like, thank goodness you're able to work out. You're so privileged you're able to go to the gym, afford a gym membership. You're so healthy. You are so lucky to have grown up in a family that was financially stable enough that they could afford healthy foods. I learned proper balanced nutrition. I didn't eat fast food until I was in high school, and I bought it myself. My parents they raised me on like, dinner is 5 ounces of protein, 2 blocks of vegetables, and like a different kind of carb, like soup or rice or something like that. And so like whenever I look at a meal, I know where the balance is and how big it is in comparison. Like maybe you're having this much meat and you're having this much vegetables, but like they compare to each other. So thank goodness I'm able to just know that. Thank goodness I'm so healthy. I woke up this morning, I can breathe. I got in my car and it started. I got to the gym and there are people there, and I'm surrounded by people who care about their fitness and their well-being and their health. And we live in a world where that's starting to become like a normal thing, people caring about their health. Like, thank goodness this is my experience. And that's just that she lost her mom a year and a half ago. That type of thinking only comes from extreme pain. This type of gratitude, like I wake up and I look at my ceiling. I have a window right by my bed. So every morning when I wake up, it's just bright. I don't have blackout curtains. I don't like those. I like waking up to bright, and I wake up, I'm in this bed that I paid for in an apartment that I can afford because I have a job that I love that pays me enough money to live here. And I'm awake, I'm breathing. My body's a little sore, and that's great because it's from a workout that I put work into. It's
so
just
you're growing as well. Like you're.
Yeah. And it's just, thank goodness this is my experience. I wake up to my cats yelling at me. Thank goodness I'm able to afford 2 animals that support me and my happiness, and I can pet them all the time. And
right. Yeah, because as much as it annoys you if they wake you up and they're just meowing or something, and you're like, really? I mean, when there's gonna come a time when the cats are gonna move on, when in their life cycle.
It's so true.
So you're gonna be like, dang it, there's gonna be time in your life where you're gonna be like, I wish I could hear them waking my ass up in the morning. I wish I could experience that.
I realized I forgot it was my cat's birthday recently. She's turning 5. She turned 5. I have had this cat since her umbilical cord was attached. I have had this cat. I raised her, and she is 5 years old. I'm in shock. They tell you that about children, that they just grow up and you have to watch them. But I'm just looking at her oh my God, you've existed for 5 years. It's so crazy. Yeah, it's so nuts. And, I have to take time to play with my pets, and that takes time away from work. And I have to take time to take care of them, clean their litter box, buy them food, and make food for myself. And all of these things in life take time away from work. And I've always been comparing how much time things take away from work. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, work takes time away from my life experience.
Yeah, you get caught up in every second I'm not working is another dollar I'm not making, or whatever it is. I have with my dog Blue, that's something that I actually had to he helped me again just learn more presence. I would have times I'm constantly listening to stuff like YouTube. I'm just constantly absorbing. I think you're like this a lot too. Just listening to podcasts or YouTube or some background something. But I started kind of intentionally, I'd come home from work and I'm listening to something, because usually I'll get home, put in headphones, just listen to something or continue listening to what I was listening to in the car, stretch out in the garage and do my little routine, come upstairs. And if he's in here, if he's staying over, then what I would try to do is take out my headphones and put my phone away and just cuddle the guy for 10-15 minutes, just be with him, just let him nuzzle me, just, talk with him, just hang out with him, just exist with him. And I really came to that moment of intentional presence where I'm I could be listening to this thing and then also just kind of petting my dog. That sounds cool too. But no, man, I love this dog and I really want to feel that to its fullest degree. So I'm gonna take out the headphones and I'm gonna get present with him, and then that builds up, that builds up gratitude. By being present, you build up gratitude, because then I would have times where I'm driving home from work and I'm just thinking oh, I get to pet my dog, it just excites me. So, dude, what you said about compassion, compassion is learned through pain or something you said. Holy shit. That's powerful. I was thinking, when you first started that, I was just like, wow, like you're reaching into something inside me for sure. Because I think a lot of um, my, emotional intelligence, but um, also sensitivity, but also I don't know. I think my empathy for humanity and my compassion for others is because of me experiencing. I'm a hurt people. I I experienced pain when I was younger, and then like now my life is like I'm not gonna like bring that pain onto other people, or I want to like learn how to work with that, or I want to learn how to make other people not feel the pain that I experienced. And yeah, so that does build compassion. I'm almost like looking for like, how can I help you? How can I help you not feel the terrible things that I have felt inevitably as a human being myself? So yeah, compassion brings pain. That was fucking powerful.
It absolutely is. Like, how can I make sure that you don't feel these feelings? Anytime in work, in just like when people are going through anything, people are, I have a friend who's now a new mom and they're new parents, and people I ask to do things for work, and people who are going through breakups, and people who are going through, whatever it is. Just like I have felt so low and I have felt so stressed that maybe I don't know how you feel, but I can certainly empathize. And I want to do whatever I can do to help you get out of that, because I have been there and all I wanted was someone to just like reach a hand. You know what I mean? And that, like, the new mom, anything I can do to help her, I just want it, because having a baby is freaking crazy. I've never had a baby, obviously, but just like, it's a whole life shift, and you're now responsible for this little person, and every single thing you do has to be for this little person and is seen by this little person. Even as babies, every single thing you do, the pace at which you get off the couch, the amount that you sleep, the volume level of your voice when you speak to anybody, the energy you bring into any conversation from birth until death affects that little baby. Mm-hmm. Just so, like, anything I can do to help this person, I want to. And with work, oh my God, I was just talking about this the other day, talking about how I manage my stress and things like that. And was talking about last year when we went from all live events to all virtual events, there was this crunch where I was the only one working. Actually, I was the only one working with you. And we were the only people putting these virtual shows together. And it was just so much work in like 13 days, I think was the span. We did 10 shows in 13 days, something like that.
And we had to like learn different ways and new ways to do it. I thought that I had it down at the beginning, but I was like, wait, I have to do this all fucking different. I have to do this
it's
way
so
different. I was like watching the show on my mobile phone while trying to live record and like time everything perfectly as if it was a live show. I was just totally.
And it was, the expectation was put on you that you would do it like we normally would, when you learned that there was actually a difference in how you should be doing it.
It didn't work. I had to do it a different way.
Exactly. And so when we went through that experience, I did not sleep. There was a span there was a span where we had so many shows in like a 5-day period that I worked 95 hours in like 4 or 5 days. I got no sleep. I was sitting down on my laptop from 9 a.m. until 11 p.m. And then I got tired, so I stood up and worked from 11 p.m. to like 8 a.m.
And then I would say, so I went to sleep and I woke back up. But no, you're like, I stood up, did another 9 hours.
I literally like, I have a bar in my kitchen, and I stood up at the bar working from 11 p.m. until 8 a.m. And then I would like make breakfast, take a shower, get back on my computer, sit down, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., stand up and just be working. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. It was so stressful. mentally, physically, like my body hurt from standing all night and not eating and not sleeping. And like I would render something and I had 7 minutes for it to render and I couldn't do anything else. And so I would just like sleep real quick. And then like when it went, yeah. And it was so taxing. I don't feel any stress anymore. Like it was so traumatizing for me that there's nothing I experience anymore that is even slightly stressful to me. You know, like there are a lot of things on my plate right now for sure, but I don't feel any type of stress about them because nothing compared to what I went through.
Right. Yeah. So you grow through the, you know, I mean, grow through adversity, like some say, but, you know, growing through just hardship, basically.
And so like now I have a different understanding of stress. And when other people are stressed, like I know how you feel. How can I help you? There is, because I was just there. Like I was.
So when you're stressed though, so that's an important thing that you do, you bring compassion to it and you don't, because what I'll see some people do when they're like, oh, I've worked, I'm working my 16-hour days. And then someone comes in, they're like, oh, dude, I'm so tired. Like I just worked 12 hours. Like, and immediately what the 16-hour person could do is like, bro, that ain't shit. I worked 16 hours and I haven't slept. And, you know, my mom's in the hospital in my, you know, and they're just like, here's how what you have to say and what you're going through is not valid because mine's more valid than you. Instead of doing that, you're like, I feel you. Like oh man, it was pretty rough when I was at my 12 hours. Like, do you need a water? Do you need like a lemonade? You know, like what's
because all of your experience is your experience. The worst thing that's happening to you is the worst thing that's happening to you. I don't like when people say like, you know, oh, you think you're hungry, but there are children starving in Africa. Like there's not much that I can compare myself to people starving in Africa, but it doesn't affect that, like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. You know, there's not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really work. I don't think that stuff works. Comparing yourself to, yeah, I'm hungry. People are starving in Africa, but like, this is the most hungry I've ever been. Or yes, my job is hard, but there are people who are working harder. Like it doesn't, comparing myself to that someone else's situation just doesn't work. And so I never want to put on someone like, I do a lot in my job. Like I do a lot and you only have one role. Like you're only the audio director. Like, can you really be stressed? You know, like I'm never going to be like that. It's just, if there's something that you're experiencing and it's very stressful for you, then it's very stressful for you. And I respect and understand that. And like, how can I help?
Okay. I'm not trying to steamroll, but I'm going to take this. I want to connect this part right here back to what we started with basically like not, you know, at the beginning, we're talking about trying to talk to someone who's, let's say like a super, you know, MAGA person or a very woke person or a very, you know, they're very hardcore into their beliefs. You bringing compassion and understanding in their lived experience because exactly how we are like, I get you, I totally get where you're coming from. It's hard for us to bring that same level of understanding and compassion into, like, you know, like say we're talking to someone who's like very obsessed with QAnon or whatever, and they've been spending 16 hours a day on these like forums and like you know, their entire belief system is basically like, this is the most true information I've ever read. Because you can dive into a lot of that stuff, and if you're learning about it for weeks and weeks and months or years even, like it's your truth, and
it becomes reality for sure.
So how do we? That's where like there's this part with you know, kind of, you know, empathic or compassionate people or just people who like, we want to understand, we want to be like, oh, like you're going through pain, or oh, you're going through trouble, or oh, like you feel like you're being lied to by corporations, by the government, like you feel like you're being lied to and you know, people are disobeying you and you don't have any trust. Like, how do we, in these moments where we're having these weird, especially in America just right now, politics is an easy lens, but there's so many expanding out, like there's so many different little levels of this. How do we bring that much compassion? Because we haven't experienced that ourselves. We haven't gone like 10 layers deep on like these crazy conspiracy theories or whatever it is, even if it's not a conspiracy theory. It's hard for us to bring that compassion because we're like, oh my God, like you believe something very drastically different than me. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know how to treat you.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like you're even willing to listen to me, even if I am kind of offering space. I don't know. I can't exactly propose a specific question here, but does this make sense to you? I was just trying to grip this line back to solving that problem of miscommunication.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I think it comes from, or I think it can be solved by, but it can be helped by just trying to understand people, like where they come from, like why are you so, what allows you to become so obsessed with something. And I'll tell you separate example, something that I really went through in my relationship, learning. The craziest thing to me about my boyfriend is that I've never met someone like him, and I just could not understand him. I could not, for the first, like, I want to say 10 months to a year of our relationship, I was just trying to like figure this person out. I could not understand who or why, like, why do you think this way? And, you know, he's a very stubborn person, and he's very hard-headed, wants to be right, wants to be like the leader, wants to be the, he's very independent, and all these kinds of things. And I'm just like, what makes you such a hard, like top, like
alpha
alpha type person? Like, what is that? And it took me forever to just like understand the dynamics of being an only child, because I'm not an only child. And so much of his personality, I think, comes from being an only child. An only child, you learn so much independence. You're depended on to be like good to your parents because like you're the only offspring, you're the only thing they have to really nurture. So there comes a lot of his personality is based off of being an only child, and so many things come from that. And I see so many things about him that I'm like, that's a tendency because you didn't have any siblings. You were never like things he doesn't think about, maybe because he never depends on anyone else. And I'm like, you know, I want to go to things and support you. I want, like, why don't you ask me about these things? Why don't you do this? My expectations. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Because he's never had anyone to do those things with. So I've always had a brother.
Support him though? Is it like mind blowing? Is he like, really? Like you're
no?
Like, is he grateful, or he just doesn't care? So he's just
like, I've never needed it. And I'm just like, yeah. I'm like, why isn't it mind blowing to you that like someone cares about you? And he's like, I've never needed it. It's never been something that, it's never an expectation. And it's just like, it's mind blowing to me that, you know, someone can be that way, but it's what you learn. And so bringing that back to what you asked, I think we can learn a lot about people, like people who don't trust the government. Did they grow up with their parents together? Like, are their parents separated or not? Because separated parents can make you, not believe in people. Or have you been cheated on? Like that can really affect your trust issues. Have you yourself done something that can make you not trust other people because you know you can't trust yourself? How much do you trust yourself? Are you projecting this lack of trust on other people? And I'm using that example because that's a personal experience. So, but like, I think if we run into this person that's just like so hard about, I have these political views, I believe in this conspiracy theory, I believe in this, I believe in that, like what makes you such a closed-minded, sure about this type of person? Like, do you have siblings that loved you? Did your parents hug you? Like all these types of things. And you can't ask someone, you know, like they're upset about Biden winning. You can't just be like, did your mother ever hug you when you were little?
So tell me about your childhood trauma since you voted for this motherfucker, you know.
Exactly. But like, that's what I want to know. That's what I want to understand. Like, what do you do for work? Okay, cool. That's like your role and your responsibilities. What do you do? Like when you go home, everyone's working from home, or like when you go to work, like, do you sit down at your desk and you love every second of working, or are you stressed all the time? And what is being stressed all the time? How does that affect like when you go home and you're with your family? Do you see your family when you're home? Are you single? Are you upset that you're single? Do you love that you're single? Do you have children? Do you have a dog? Do you hate animals? Like, what type of person are you, and what makes you feel that way? And I just think there are a lot of people who don't think like that. Who don't like understand that way or want to analyze that way.
Well, I mean, it's just like we're talking about. We're always trying to when it comes to our identities with like our, again, throwing the word ego in there. I know it's overused, but a lot of our identities, we're trying to take snapshots at all times. We're trying to be like, this is me. This is who I am. Like this is here's who I am. But we again, the actuality of reality is we're fluid. We're always changing. And so that means that who you are right now at this very second has everything to do with how you were treated when you were younger. Like, all the time is only right now, but you're acting out this long drawn out 30-year process of exactly what's been happening to you since you were younger. Like you are, like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, a mood or an emotion becomes a mood becomes a personality. Like when you just hold on to it, so like, is your personality today because you got into a mood, like too many series of arguments with your parents when you were younger or whatever. Or even me, I can tell, and it's not with resentment that I hold this, but just in retrospect, and as I'm doing all this healing and trying to like really dissect who I am, and like, okay, like I'm an artistic, like I'm not artistic, contemplative thinker. Like I enjoy thinking in ethereal ways. I enjoy a lot of my artistic sides are kind of born through my trauma, like through my younger years of things that I experienced that were bad, that I had to, the things that I'm a very introverted person, but I'm very sharpened in my extroversion because I had to go out and get a job, like, as soon as I was legal to, like, go out and start selling clothes and start being more social and start, all these things. So we're built off of who we were when we were children, but we do disconnect from this fact and we can't seem to face it. And we have, I mean, I know people who just, and they'll never openly speak about it like you or I would, who, were sexually abused when they were younger. And like, it clearly affects them. It clearly gives them things that they have to deal with. It gives them, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's anger problems, whether it's, closed off. And these aren't things to be insecure about. These are real, I have nothing but compassion for these people. I totally get it. But we can't seem to couple who we are in every moment with the things that have been done to us. Because if we were able to do that, if we were able to bring that into our noticed awareness, we could be like, oh, I don't have to prove anything to this person. I don't have to act out this thing. I can accept love from this person. They're not going to hurt me. Just because I've been hurt in the past doesn't mean that this person is going to hurt me or whatever it is. So do you think we're dealing with a traumatized society that doesn't know they're traumatized?
I'll tell you that my boyfriend is a very big proponent, and he's West Indian. So he believes that white people are the majority of people who are mentally ill. And as many times as I want to have the argument that just like I'm sure there's so many reasons. I know Black people who are in therapy. So like, I don't know. I can't talk about the racial statistics, but I think what you're talking about, I think people just want to be seen. And that's a huge thing that I do. And people are so surprised when you see them. And like, just like we're talking about, when someone comes at you with a surface level conversation and I'm like, trying to figure out like where their line of thinking comes from. And I'm like, how are you? Like, how did you grow up? Did you grow up around here? Or like, did you move a lot as a child? Like, where is this coming from? And they're like, huh.
You're like trying to push away the parts that aren't them. Like, hey, where are you? Where are you in there? You know?
Yeah. Like, I want to see you. Like, I want to see, like, there's this thing about us that's just blocking each other from understanding. Like, I want to, like we were talking about the foggy glass, like, I want to like wipe away what's blocking it and like figure out what you actually look like and what you actually seem like. And I think it comes a lot from understanding yourself to be able to understand people. And I feel like just recently, I'm really starting to understand myself. Like you're saying, taking a snapshot of your identity. Just recently, like in the last week, I've taken a snapshot of myself and I've been like, this is fucking awesome. Like this person, this person I'm building is fucking awesome. Like I'm learning how to manage my stress. I'm learning how to be more present. I'm learning how to think about myself more and understand when I'm projecting onto someone rather than like their experiences coming onto me. And just like the annoying thing. If someone were to call me annoying now, like I'm either doing something I know is annoying or it's not annoying. And so what you're saying doesn't affect me. Or if it's annoying to you, just like not my problem. There is not, anyone can call me anything and it doesn't affect me because I know I'm not that thing. And the only way it affects you is if you're insecure about yourself and not sure, maybe I am this thing, maybe I am ugly. But like if someone came up and called me fat and just like called me fat all the time, I'm not going to get upset and think I'm fat. I know I'm not fat. But I'm going to get upset because this person keeps calling me fat. Like, why am I going to be around a person who keeps calling me fat? Like, you know, like I'm not going to get insecure and stuff like that. I'm not going to look at my body and be like, oh my God, maybe I am fat. Like I don't associate. Like you can't call me anything that I don't associate with and upset me because I'm in control of my reaction to it and my reality.
Well, thoughts from other people can really get sticky inside of us. Like they can be, you know, someone calls you annoying, that's something you hold on to. You know, look at a kid, for example. You know, if you bully a kid or there's like some traumatizing, like where 6 kids team up and just really bully someone, that's enough to like fuck up their life. Look at Justin Wren. I think we both watched that Rogan podcast. I mean, he's talking about, he goes to this party that they told him, this sounds like a TV commercial or something, like where at the end they're going to show the Duracell battery guy and his mom hugging him or something. Like he goes to a party and they told him it was a dress up party. So he made like this cool, like Transformers outfit out of cardboard boxes or something like that. Walks into the party, nobody's wearing costumes except for him. Everyone's laughing at him. He's devastated. He runs away and he's like traumatized. Like he has like suicidal thoughts as a 35-year-old man, like dealing with counseling, dealing with addiction, all these things because of that moment, he believes. I mean, holy shit. So growth is this powerful thing. And it's not just like maturity happens on its own. I think this takes work, but you can not take what other people say to be the only truth. Like their opinions of you just belong in their head. Like that's the only place they're in, and you don't have to accept them. You don't have to hear them. You don't have to put them into your head. But sometimes they get sticky. Sometimes it's like one person says you're annoying, and it's like for the next 6 weeks, everything you do, you're a little more timid because you're like, I don't want to be the annoying person, you know, like.
But so much of it too can be them projecting onto you. Like maybe people were calling me annoying because they have learned that like doing these things are annoying to other people. Other people have called them annoying for doing certain things or something like that. And so they see me doing something and they're like, you're annoying. Yeah. But it's really them projecting onto me that they were being annoying. You know what I mean? Hurt people. So I'm not going to say my entire experience was people projecting on me. I was certainly annoying when I was younger, and I'm certainly annoying now. Like even times where I saw a funny meme the other day that was like, sometimes even I'm like, girl, calm down. And it's so true. Like there are times when we were talking about trying to take life less seriously. And so there are times when I'm just so upset about something, whatever, ridiculous. And I take a step back and I'm like, come on, give me a break, girl. Like, why are you upset about this thing? It's not a big deal. Yeah, relax. Like, my boyfriend and I like to match when we go out, and sometimes he just changes his mind and wears a different outfit. And I used to be
Backstabber.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like so upset, and I'm like, literally, like, I planned my whole outfit, and like all these things are going through my head, and you just and then I'm just like,
I don't look cool without you next to me looking cool.
And then I'm just like, hold on a second, who fucking cares? Like, who cares? Who cares if we're matching? Like, it's such a
that moment where you're like, oh yeah, okay, I can just let go. And then all of a sudden the tension in your body where we hold all of our emotions in our body, it all of a sudden just, oh yeah. And you could laugh. And you right?
Yeah. It's just like I was making the art for our podcast, and I'm just like, what would be so funny? And I have that photo of you on stage where you're kneeling down. And I was like, I have a photo of me kneeling down too. And so at first it was like a squad photo of you and I kneeling next to each other. Yeah. And then I was like, what if we were in space?
Needs to be more far out. Needs more far outness.
And then I turned you upside down. And I was just like, we need some helmets on here. And I was like, throw an airplane, even though it doesn't make any sense in space. But, you know, just stuff like that. Like, why
the size of the airplane, I don't know if it exactly, that's a big fucking airplane. Listener, if you're listening right now, look at the podcast album art Abrielle made for us. That's what we're talking about.
It's just like, and it's so funny and so ridiculous, and it doesn't make any sense. And it's just like, I feel like so much of like my job that I do, and so many people's frustration, and, you know, like, I have a lot of work on my plate, and the person in charge of all the work that I do is like, you have a lot of stuff, and I'm stressed about the amount of things that you're doing. And I'm like, I don't know why you're stressed. It's not your stuff to work on. It's not. He's like, I feel like, you know, I want to see this thing, and I want to, you know, X, Y, Z. And I'm just like, it's my stress. I don't know why you're stressed about it. It's just like, you know, I think it's just, we need to be less serious. Like, it's not, our team gets so uptight about this and that, and, you know, all these things. Go ahead.
Maybe some people's way of being their version of empathetic, and I don't mean to disvalue, let's lose their version. Let's just say their version of empathy, like how they've learned to be empathetic. What if sometimes that is feeling people's stress for them? Like, that's how they communicate empathy, or wait, is that apathy?
No, empathy. There's sympathy and empathy.
Right. So
empathy is trying to feel the other person's emotion.
Yeah. So when someone they recognize, like, they don't innately feel like, oh my gosh, like how can I help? I've experienced this. I don't want you to feel like as much struggle as I have. Instead of that approach, they say, I'm going to be stressed, as if that takes away some of your stress, or as if that makes you feel more validated. Maybe communicating that they're stressed makes the other person feel more validated if they do get stressed, almost like hey, if you're stressed, it's okay. But that's just not like a healthy coping mechanism. That's just not really how to show compassion and empathy.
It's so true, because, you know, if someone's upset or having like an anxiety attack, you never want to get anxiety on their behalf, because then you
sit next to them.
Yeah.
Start making yourself stressed out. I'm with you, bro. I'm stressed too. Start looking at pictures of your ex.
Right. It's not going to help. It's just like, you need to be the calm one. Yeah. And that's always where I come from. Whenever someone comes to me with like stress or anxiety, I'm just like, let's think about like the positive, or like the grateful, or the like, where do you come out of it? Or maybe some people just need to feel it sometimes, you know, like, it's not what's the solution. It's just that you just want to be heard, and some people just want to be listened to, and like, maybe they just need someone to talk to. I've had a friend recently, they're going through a lot of stuff, and it's just like, they just need someone to talk to. It's not like, how can we solve this? How can we make it better? What can we do? or how could you have not been in this situation? How can you improve in the future? Not focusing on this self-improvement, just wants to talk about it, you know? And I don't know. I agree that just getting stressed on someone else's behalf, I don't think that's the way to do it, because that's not the way I'm not gonna make myself upset. I'm not gonna have my life experience be harder because yours is. Yeah. I want mine to be great. And making my life experience great is making others experience great, because then I'm surrounded by glowing people. So that's all I want to do, is just make other people's experience great.
Right. So at all times you're almost trying to figure out, like, what are you feeling right now? You know, that's kind of like how do you know your personality type, Abrielle? Like your
no.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about, but I haven't. No.
Yeah, I know that stuff is a little far-fetched for some people too, but I'm an INFJ, and I think that I'm always, you know, subconsciously trying to figure out how someone feels, like trying to I'm one of those people who I feel anyway. This might be grandiose or you know, self-validating or something, but I feel as if I can always, like, hey, what's up, man? You talking to someone? And then, like, I can be like, are you good? Like,
yeah.
you know, like I get the expression of their personness, of their humanity. You know, I feel like I get like little signals from their soul, even if they're feeding me some other bullshit, you know, because I've done that same thing. So I think that I can like relate with it or see when it's happening. So I'm always trying to figure out where they're really coming from, not the projections, not the armor, not the boundary, you know. I'll respect their boundaries, but not the barriers, rather. But always trying to navigate, and the reason why I'm always trying to navigate is because I want to insert compassion. I want to genuinely want their this you know, confrontation, this communication, this conversation to be better and more fruitful for the other person. But it's also just this, like, I feel like that's what we should be doing with each other, is trying to push aside each other's bullshit. You know, like if one of my homies is coming in and they're freaking out and they're in a bad mood and they're going off, like, you know, at some point I gotta be like, my guy, chill, you're good. What's up?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, what? Talk to me. Like, let's turn off this fucking microphone. Let's turn off this camera. Like, what's going on? Talk to me. Like, let's go over here for a second, you know, or whatever. It's always like the core of what I want to bring to the table of friendships and companionships and interactions with, you know, coworkers or whatever it is. I want to cut through the bullshit and be like, what's up, man? What's trying to come out here? What's behind these layers that you're trying to put up, that you are unconsciously, that you don't even know that you're doing it.
But I think so much of it comes from you personally understanding yourself. Like, I know that I do so much work on myself, and I understand myself so much that I've gone through this problem and this is how I got out of it. This is, you know, I encountered this and whatever obstacle or whatever challenge, and like, this is how I navigated. And then I see other people who are trying to navigate the same things. And sometimes it's helpful not to say, this is the solution, but here was my solution. Here's how I navigated. And they can try it on and they can see if it works. And sometimes it doesn't work, you know. Some people just think very differently. And that's something I've learned, is that people think differently than me, than I do, you know. And they have just it's something I've gotten from traveling, is just that people just think differently. They think of other things. They don't think of some things that you do. They view the world differently. They view people differently. They view family differently. You know, it's just things like that. It's just, people can be so different. And you know, when I think anything, that's my way of thinking it. That's unique to me. There are a lot of people probably in the culture that I come from that I can relate to and think similarly, but people in other cultures just might not even consider it, or that might be the center of what they consider, and all other things like are around it, you know? And so, like, in some cultures, family is a huge deal. In some cultures, you leave your family very young, and like it's, you know, like animals with like birds. They just kick them out of the nest and like, go fly and figure it out. Yeah. Yeah. And meanwhile, in like Spanish countries, it's like family forever and big family and family dinner every night. And, it's just so important. And so there's just all these different dynamics in people. And so how to bring it back? Like just people experiencing different things. I want to not help them experience it, but at least give them like, here's how I've experienced it and how I've gotten through it. And that comes from being in pain. And I can show you my path because I've been there. Like this is how I've navigated and figured it out. But all of that comes from you understanding yourself before you can try to understand someone else. Because there's no way you can think of like what makes you an angry person, what makes you quick-tempered, what makes you, sarcastic, what makes you this type of person. You don't even have that thought process until you think about yourself that way. What makes me an optimist? What makes me, where did I get this from? What makes me grateful? You can't look at other people and analyze them in that way until you've analyzed yourself in that way.
Right. Yeah. I think it makes life so much more interesting too. It really everything becomes fascinating. I remember Jim Carrey, actually, he's talked about in like some sort of podium speech or interview or something I've heard from him. His desire to be so funny and so obtuse and perpetually acting to be the funny guy, to be the one to make everybody laugh, was because his mom, I think, was either sick or very depressed. She was very sad when he was young. And so he turned it, when he was from a young age, his job was like, I'm going to make mom laugh. I'm going to make her smile. And like that, that's projected this huge trajectory of his entire career. And it's kind of developed into who he is. So, I'm sure he didn't realize these things until he's like an older man. These didn't come up until he probably thought like, I wonder why am I always trying to make everybody laugh? Like, there is the answer of, I just want to make other people smile, but there's layers deep, again, with the layers of when did you learn these things? Was it a coping mechanism? Was it is it good? Is it serving you? So he could look, okay, I'm making everybody laugh. That's a good thing. That seems pretty good, but am I doing it at the expense of my own true emotions? Am I shutting them down? So, he realizes and he didn't say all this. I'm going off of my own rant on this. He just communicated that his mom was sad and he wanted to make her laugh. But we have to kind of look at who we are and why we are who we are as an older person, and not justify it, not find blame, not victimize ourselves. And this is even cultural past, right? Sometimes we get caught up in that, in like, I am the way I am because of these things that happened to me, because of these things happened to my family, blah, blah, blah. Like, well, if they aren't helpful to you and the culture around you right now, like, how can you shift them? If they're not bringing you joy, if there's things that you're holding on to, if you're still trying to make everybody laugh, but you're just fucking sad, and what you need right now is to feel some real emotions for a couple months, then being happy for everybody around you is not working for you. It's not fully working. So, I think it's very fascinating to see, and helpful for people. So helpful to not avoid looking at why we are the ways that we are. I think
it's hard it's hard to confront yourself. It's hard to, if you're upset about something, why are you upset? Like, why is it getting to you? What is it? Or not even, like someone's doing something. Why is it upsetting to you? Do you want to be doing it? Do you hate do you hate the thought of you doing it? Do you hate the thought of them doing it? Do you like, where does it come from? Like and it's just hard to confront yourself. And I don't even know if people get to the place of like, I don't want to confront myself. I feel like there's just not even a conscious thought of like, I can confront myself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I like what you said about so much of your personality and experience can come from one thing when you're younger, because definitely a lot of my personality comes from a dream I had when I was younger. And like my whole yeah,
so
my whole dream about like I was in this like dark place. I was very young. I was probably maybe not very young. I want to say I was like 15 or 16, something like that. And no, I had to be younger than that. But no, I think it was around like 16 or 17. I had a dream that I was in this like dark place, and there were these faceless men standing around me, and they were making me shoot myself. And I had to they were just like pressuring me. And I think I was sitting on the ground, and there was like a spotlight on me, and just these seven faceless men in suits. And they were just like, I don't even think they were saying anything. It was just, I was in the situation that I needed to shoot myself, and I had to shoot myself, and I had to do it, and I had to do it, and I had to do it. And I shot myself in the stomach, and I felt myself die. Like I felt cold and warmth and just falling, and all the things I didn't experience, and all the thoughts I didn't think, and all the thoughts I did think, and what was right and what was wrong, and people I'd miss, and all the stuff I didn't get to experience because I died so young, and all this kind of stuff. And when I woke up, I had sleep paralysis, and I couldn't move, and I thought I was literally dead. Like I couldn't open my eyes, and I couldn't move, and I had just killed myself, and I was like, this is it. Like I am really dead. And I eventually woke up, and I was sleeping next to my brother, and I like looked around, and I have been present and grateful for the moment, and will never let another person leave without making sure this moment was good. I will never do that again, because like that was such a powerful dream for me, and such a powerful experience. Like anything can happen at any moment, and I will not let you go or let me go without making sure that this is good, and we are good, and there's nothing left unsaid. And I was 100% myself, and we both did the best that we could in the situation. And that's entirely who I am. And it's just from that one dream that happened to me.
I remember us talking about this. We were, I think we were working the show over in Disney World, like 2019. And we were talking about this. I remember it feels so profound, because I literally got chills when you're retelling me again. And I think I got them when we were walking around too in Disney World. Like, wow, it's so crazy. You know, when I asked earlier about, you know, kind of your mystical experience or a conscious altering experience, I think that would actually kind of fall into what I was kind of trying to point at. These are experiences that afterwards, you're a changed person. Your perception of who you are and what you're going to do, or how you see things, or how you approach other people, or how you conceptualize your reality, and how that controls who you are and your identity. These things are changed. Okay, let's not crush it. What is that? What is that? Like not just an NDE, not just a near-death experience. Like you experience this in the you know, the astral dream world realm, which astral projection is very real. Lucid dreaming is very real. People, like, I haven't experienced it yet, but there's people who, oh my God, you can go on crazy Reddit sinkholes, whatever. But this is a real thing that can be experienced, not necessarily a place as we would think of it as a physical place, but it's a place within collective consciousness that like people can see, go through in dreams and experience similar things or certain events. I mean, this event changed who you are. I had my similar events of, you know, when I first started all these things, what suddenly made me like go, the fuck am I doing? What? Like, why am I doing things like this? What is, you know, it was like this waking up moment was I've talked about it on here before, but I had, I was just like casually doing too many like party drugs and stuff. And I literally was behind the wheel. I had my girlfriend at the time in the passenger seat. And I remember I had a couple too many drinks. I wasn't drunk, but I had more than I normally would choose to have and still have my keys on me. And I remember taking a bump. This was years ago. I took a bump of blow. and I was like, suddenly I had this coming to, I mean, it wasn't as like near I didn't have like people around me telling me to kill myself. Like, I'm not trying to downplay. I know this is very not the same thing, but I'm just saying
Your experience is your experience.
right. Okay. Thank you for validating. I had this sudden, like this little, it reminds me of the movie Soul, just like this little thing that floated in of like, I did it. And I was like, the fuck? Like, what am I doing, dude? Like, why would I make this normal to just do in front of this person? Like, what is, like, I'm splitting my life with her. Like, what am I giving to this person? You know, just all these profound things start sinking in. And, you know, it's just like painful for months afterwards because it just made me look at all the things that I was doing that I didn't like that I was doing. But what, what, what I'm asking, Abrielle, and we can get ethereal with this, and I know there's not really an answer, but it's interesting to contemplate. What is that? What is this thing that in the human condition within the human experiment we have here, where suddenly this little like flicker of something can change your perception of it's just like this little light particle floats into your brain and it says like, hey, turn around and look at yourself, there you are, and then it leaves you, and then you have then it's like, now figure out your life on your own, you know.
I don't know what it is, but those are the turning points of us as people, and those are part of the experience. And I think if you don't have those things, you're a shell of a person. And there are definitely people we run into that are that way. They've never experienced strife. They've never experienced, you know, something difficult. They've never been too stressed out, or even if they have, they've never sat down and thought about it. You know, so I'll give you an example. My brother was in a car accident and nothing bad happened. He was totally fine. It was technically his fault, but because we live in Florida, we have a no fault rule. So he didn't get a ticket. There's the person who was in the accident as well. She tried to sue for, like, she said her neck hurt. I don't know how badly her neck hurt. But she was alive, and my brother was alive, and the person in the car with my brother was alive. And my brother, he had a new car, and he was able to get enough money from, like, when his car was totaled, and insurance gave him basically the same amount of money that his car cost. So he bought a new car, another new car.
Wow.
And I wanted him to come out of that experience completely changed. Like, I could have killed this person. I need to pay more attention. I need to be more present. Like, thank goodness I'm alive, all these kinds of things. And he didn't come out of it like that. He got a new car that my parents paid for. And I don't think he texts and drives, but, like, I'm pretty sure he pays attention when he drives. I don't know how, I haven't been in the car with him since because I'm just scared. Right. But he doesn't, like, have an aura of gratitude to like the fact that he's alive. And I talked to my dad about it, and it's just, some people don't think that way. Some people don't, like, analyze the experience, and
until they do, though.
Right.
Like there's I feel like there's probably, I'm sure we both know, I don't know, I'm sure we both know a couple people who have had, like, they're living unconsciously to some aspect, or they're at least
actually
unaware.
Do know something like that, yes.
Yeah, but they had a sudden, like that situation. What you and I are looking for is, like, why didn't your brother have this sudden, like, little flicker of Jesus?
Why wasn't that the moment that did it for him? Like, why wasn't that his life-changing experience?
But then I wonder, how many moments have I had before that one moment where I'm, like, doing a bump of blue because I had too many tequila shots or whatever? Like why was that the why was that the jumping board, and
there's so many times where it's like you hear the same thing over and over again until that one time when you hear the same thing and it just hits you correctly. And you're like, wait a minute, that's what it means.
Yep. That's, like, my favorite part about philosophy or listening to any sort of philosophical thought is I'll find myself listening to the same lectures. I'm letting the YouTube algorithm just, like, numb my mind. And so I'm clicking on one. I'm like, I've listened to somebody else upload the same one but call it something else, but I'll listen to it again and it sounds like a completely different talk because I'm at a different point in my life. Even
Right.
6 months later, it could be more profound. So you've got to be ready to follow the path, to actually follow the path or something.
You have to be ready to receive it. Like how many times do you watch something that you watched as a kid and you're like, oh my God, all this stuff went all over my head. Like I had no idea. And I'm so glad I learned these things. I was watching a little Einstein thing the other day. I was like, I watched this video when I was younger. I thought, okay, so I'll go to religion. I grew up Jewish. So now that I'm learning about a lot of the things that they teach Jewish children, I'm like, that's part of who I am. And I had no idea I learned that in Hebrew school or in Judaica or anything like that. I had no idea that's the reason I am the way I am is wholly because I'm Jewish. And I learned all these things when I was younger, but I had no idea what they meant. And now that I'm relearning them and rehearing them and seeing how they relate to my religion, I'm like, oh my God, this formed my personality. These are parts of who I am, and it comes from XYZ. And it's so crazy to me that it just matters when you hear it and how ready you are to receive it, how well you know yourself. You've tried on all these hats and now they fit differently and you fit differently. And now you hear these things and you can try it on again and you can be like, maybe I can take a little bit of this, or, it means something different or so much more or so much less, maybe I don't think of this as important as I thought it was,
That's something I think powerful about, obviously, having these little instances of flipping your whole perception about everything and questioning everything. That's of course a huge plus. But I think our age group, even, or maybe it's just how younger people are now. We changed so much because of our technology and the internet and these things. The younger generation is very, very different and grew up very different. Their perceived reality is very different than a boomer aged person. And I'm not trying to use boomer as an offensive term. I don't mean any offense to any older people. But it's just a generalization. But so maybe our technology and I don't know. I always want to see things through the lens of how technology is changing us. But there does seem to be, if I didn't have technology, if I didn't have all these YouTube lectures and all these audio books and all these even just books, even just writ literature, not lit literature, writ literature, I wouldn't ever, there was nobody in my life to ever teach me these sort of look at why the way you're thinking and why do you think about it and why is that interesting to you. And so I think that our culture now, our younger culture, we fucking change so much. Every month, I'll have people on my podcast and 2 months later they're like, I'm not even that same person. I don't even want to listen to that because I don't think any of those things anymore. I've just changed. And I think the same thing. I'll listen to myself and it'll be like, dude, it's a week later and I think differently on that. And that's hard to do, the internet is not forgiving. They're like, you're inconsistent. I'm not listening to you. You're weird. You're unsure of what you're talking about or whatever.
Or they'll hold you to what you felt and said.
Yeah. Yeah. Like an interview, so you said this and I assume it to mean this. And you're like, I don't really fully believe that. But in that context, I think here's what I was talking about anyway. And here's how I feel it now at this age. So again, we're back to where we were at the beginning. We forget at all times that this life, this conscious experience is fluid. It's always changing. It's water. And we're moving towards evolution is behind us or whatever, pushing us. We are evolution, pushing us, flowing through and changing us. And maybe we're just changing at a faster rate. The younger people, because of technology, because of the internet, we're just changing at a faster rate, or we're able to change or more open to change more than we were in the past. I don't know exactly the point of what I was trying to say, but I think that
we definitely, with the existence of the podcasts and audiobooks and things like that, especially like reading people's memoirs and just they're relaying a story and I'm relating to them and how they went through their challenges and how they got through it and how they became this author who wrote a book. Like, we have access to that because of technology, and I'm able to see like, oh, they did that. They think that way. I don't really think that way, or I do think that way, or that's a great idea, or, you know, I want to institute those kinds of things in my life and start doing that too, or I don't agree with that and I'll never raise my children that way, or, you know, things like that. And I think books I've been reading are great for that, but it's a lot of like trying on. It's a lot of, I don't know, that I'm sure technology changes us. Good. Yeah, I'm sure technology changes us, but it's because we have so much access to different people like to relate to. And, you know, like you asked me this question last time, how did I start on social media? And my answer was that I started on MySpace. I started doing those surveys in the MySpace bulletin board. And it was, people would post like, what color do you like? And what grapefruit? And what fruit are you? And what, you know, all these things. And you would just read how you relate to somebody else, or like what they answered and whether you agree or not. And then you would do it and other people could see how you felt about all those questions. And some of them were like 180 questions long. And you're like, what do you have to do in middle school that you could be sitting there for 180 questions and then do another one after the other?
Yeah. You got your MSN Messenger window over in the background. You're swapping back and forth in your survey. I definitely did that.
Yeah. And it's just like, what are you doing? What are you up to? How do you like, oh, that middle school test was hard. You're just constantly relating to people. And so much of the experience of being able to reach so many people and so many personalities and see so many people's lives, and we can compare ourselves to each other, but we can also like try each other on. We can see these luxurious people with so much money and like try it on. Like, would I like that? Do I want to have a lot of money? Would I like this type of life? And then we see people who are in the trenches, like reporters and stuff, who go and do the hard things and try and find out the truth. Like, do I want to do that? Do I want to defend a subject? Do I want to defend a group of people? Do I want to help this, you know, type of thing? And then we see people who are ignorant and they just, you know, live their lives in their own life. And we see that, like, maybe I shouldn't be thinking of things as much. Maybe I should do what they're doing. Maybe I should, you know, like not really consider XYZ. And we have so much access that we can try on so much. And I don't know if people realize that they're doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we realize how profound those things, like a MySpace survey. It's this thing that's behind, you know, it's a cool little blue app, or, you know, it's this cool little page that hipster and like edgy people get to go on. And there's, you know, you get to, me, for example, my profile picture gets to be me laying down the train tracks, and it's a black and white photo, and I've got my like skeleton gloves on and they're fingerless and whatever. Like, I get to express myself through this cool little outlet, but also it's this profound thing that we get to see. We're given, you know, the phones and our cameras and the internet and our laptops and stuff, they're kind of like a window to see other parts of the world. Like, we get to, in our lived experience in our homes here, where for hundreds and thousands of years, the human experience has only been like, dude, if you don't know them inside your community, unless you're going to go on like the Oregon Trail and like meet all these people and experience all these different cultures along the way or whatever, and all these hardships and change by those, like, it's a new thing to so rapidly and so quickly be able to question or wonder or try on. I love your use of that word, other people. And even me, with, you know, when after I had that profound moment in the car where I'm like, what the heck am I doing? It started leading into this escalade of, I would start watching lectures. I would watch, you know, Sam Harris and Eric Weinstein and Brett Weinstein and Jordan Peterson and, you know, all these variants, Joe Rogan, all these inspiring people. And I would start to take like, oh, I like this about him. I like this about him. And I've always kind of been like that anyway, but this internet just fucking woo gave me nos, man. Like I was able to just, I'm easily inspired. That's like one of my favorite little catchphrases. Like I just want to wear it on my shirts. Easily inspired. That's me. But I think all of us are so inspired by all these little things. We're trying to build ourselves and make ourselves into all these things so we can, I don't know, like just live and experience all this stuff. We're trying to cram pack so much stuff into a short-lived life that we're accelerating too fast, and we need to remember to slow down and be grateful for what we do have, because we're so obsessed with what we don't have that it's making us think over there.
But if you want to take it back, if you want to
Yes.
bring it full circle, half circle, if you look at those people who are talking about like the news that they watch and they're upset about, you know, GDP, like you mentioned, and whatever they're upset about, like that can also just be them trying that on. Like I'm trying on like caring about the news and caring about politics. And I see all of these people who are upset about this thing. So like, I think I should be upset about this thing. Yeah. They don't really know about it, but like they see that other people are doing it. So it could just be them trying it on. And when you're like, it doesn't make any sense, like hopefully they can, sometimes you do stump people and they're like, you know, it doesn't make sense what I'm saying. You're right. I don't understand it. So it's a lot of our experience is just like everyone trying each other on, and in doing that, figuring out who we are, what we like and what we don't like.
Yeah. Okay. Cause I feel like you're blowing my mind. I feel like I'm thinking, you know, people like you and I, we were talking earlier about, we're trying to see, like, we're trying to, you know, like, what's the real you? I know you're in there, you know, it's what happens in a lot of these situations, I think, because I have compassion for these people. I don't think like, oh, you're a fucking boorish loon. Like, what are you talking about? You know, like people come at me and what I'm seeing, what I basically want to tell them is, the costume you're wearing, it's not you. Like the cost, that one doesn't, hey bro, I know you're trying it on, but what I want to say to them down in there, I want to be like, hey bro, the outfit that you put on, the costume that you're trying out, you're just trying it out. I get that, but it's not you. It's taken over you a little bit too much. And I think I see the real you in there, and I love you, you know,
or they just don't have like, yeah, they just don't have like something to hold on to. So they're just like looking for it. Like a lot of people are just trying to form their baseline, figure out who they are. And so they look to whatever they're consuming. And they, you know, like if you watch the news 24/7, you're going to become a news junkie. And so you just are upset about everything the news tells you should be upset about. And you're just trying to find your base. And a lot of that is just like, once you realize, I mean, I hope once you watch the news enough, you realize that like life isn't the news. So many people, like I'll have my dad is grateful for me because he watches the news all the time. My dad is 70 years old and he is like the cliche, like China's coming for us. Like I'm reading this book about China and
China buyers.
Yeah. And so he's like, people in this country are just so dumb and they're, you know, like yeah, and they're just, you know, whatever, mean and stupid and mean and whatever, just like negative things about people. And I'm like, everyone I know is pretty great. Everyone I'm surrounded by, everyone I see on the news, yeah, they're a little crazy. But everyone in my real experience, pretty cool. I've never really encountered anyone who's like blatantly an asshole. Like, maybe they have been, but it's because they're upset about whatever. And in context, it makes sense that they're being an asshole. No one's ever just literally been like done something mean for no reason and outrageous. And it can be that I'm just not in the areas where those people are existing. But for the news to make it seem like that's the general population, I don't really agree with that, because my idea of the general population, the people who I experience the most, are all pretty great people.
Wow, yeah. I mean, our perception really is flipped by what we're constantly looking at. Like if your window from your home is, you look out and it's like, all right, I'm going to go, you know, what we call the news now. It's like, okay, this is the news, and you watch it. It's on MSNBC and it's on, you know, Fox or whatever the news networks are. Like what that is, if you remove the word news, it's a window to look at people that you don't like, or it's a window to look at things you don't like about people, or it's a window to look at things that other people are saying are wrong about the bad other. And so in choosing to I think it's Plato's Cave. Have you heard of? I could be butchering this, and I would love if I had a Jamie. Jamie, look it up, Plato's Cave. But it's essentially like the story. It's this kind of like philosophical old story. Um, these people are looking like their whole life and their whole community, and just through different generations, they grow up, and there's a rock wall, and on the other side of it is a fire. And so everything they see is shadow. They don't know about fire. They haven't discovered fire yet. But everything they see is these dancing, moving photos on this giant wall. And that's been their whole community. And they stay here. And this is for hundreds of years or whatever. I'm butchering this, but you get the picture. And all they know is shadow. And then somebody finally like, I'm going to leave the cave. I'm going to go check out what's on the other side. And they go and they're like, oh, there's a fire over here. Oh, you guys, what our gods are actually just our shadows from our hands moving, like whatever. And everybody in your community, you can't be like, you guys come over here. Look, no, it's when I move my hand and make the butterfly, and that's what we call our gods and whatever. The whole so what they're doing, their window to reality is based off of like what they perceive right here in front of them. And so what happens when we watch like these obsessive amounts of news, I think, is that's what we see. Like we're just watching shadows and making that our perception. This is the reality of what's happening in the world. These shadows are the only thing that exist. And then when someone comes along and they're like, bro, no, look at like there's literally a fire and it's just shadow puppets. Like, trust me, it's okay. It's actually not that bad. It was more to life than just these shadow people. Like they don't want to hear it because their whole reality, their whole identity too, is wrapped up in accepting. If you grow up 45 years, you're an elder of a community for 45 years, and you're teaching every child like, here's the great god of Dionysus, and he's expressed through this long tall shadow or whatever, and that's what your reality is. You don't know anything else. Someone comes along and they're like, bro, none of the things you believe are real. Follow me, I'll show you. Nobody wants to get up. Like nobody wants to be like, all right, let's unwind everything I want to do. That won't be scary or
maybe everything I know is wrong. Yeah.
Maybe everything I know is wrong. Nobody wants to ask that. Holy shit, what a painful thing.
I had an experience the other day where it was I felt so dissociated. I don't even know if it's that people are obsessed with the news or like obsessively watching it, but they do just associate their entire view of our country and the world through the news. Like the news shows us the majority and what everything is going on rather than us looking at like our experience, because we don't experience everything. So we like look to other sources and we see on the news, and the news should be a pretty good source of our general experience as Americans. And we should be able to look at the news and see like, this is what other Americans are experiencing. This is what's going on in the world. Maybe not the case, but recently I had the experience. I think it was when the Capitol building was being stormed. I saw that on the news, or I literally like someone sent it to me because I haven't been watching the news, and someone sent it to me and I was like, oh shit, like people going nuts. People really going nuts. And then I put my phone down and it like left my head because like in my apartment, things are cool. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not in Washington. There's literally nothing I can do. It doesn't affect me. Like if I wanted to be upset about it, like as upset as I could get about it, nothing is going to change. So like, I'm just not going to burden myself with those feelings. And so I saw it, I forgot about it. My boyfriend comes over and he opens the door and he's like, it's fucking crazy out there. And I'm like, I'm looking out the door, like, what's going on? You?
Is there?
Yeah. I'm like looking around, like,
are you being followed?
What's happening? Yeah. I'm like, what's happening? And he's like, no, I mean, like, what's happening in DC? And I'm like, oh, like, hold on a second. Okay. Who cares? Yeah. I mean, like, not who cares, but like how does it? Yeah. I was so taken aback by him being like, it's crazy out there. And I'm like, what's going on? Like in our experience, what's happening? And he's just like, no, not us.
But it's, I recall what I did that same day, which this is, this is like a month ago at this point, about a month, if not exactly a month. I remember I read some stuff about it, or like people started posting on social media, and then so I looked up a couple things, and I saw a couple of videos, and this is as it was still going on, and I was like, holy mother of pearl, like what, this is crazy. And I didn't continue like obsessing about it, like I did kind of my information, and I'm like, it's this kind of, well, this another thing, whatever. But I did go right downstairs, and I interrupted my roommate who was working. He works remotely, and he's a coder, and I was like, bro, have you seen like what's going on over in Washington D.C.? And we kind of talked about it. So there is a part of us that feels the need to know, because
We want to
biologically we've
connect.
learned we want to connect, but we also need to watch out for threats, man. Like okay, if we're in tribes, we've got less than 150 people in our tribe, and we have some nomad who just wanders, and we know him. Oh yeah, that's Greg. We see him every couple of years, and he drops off, and we sell him our fur or whatever. And he comes and he's like, there's a pack of 50 hyenas, and they're about, I don't know, 3 miles back. They were heading our way. I don't, just letting you know,
Yeah.
we'd be like, sound the alarm, like there's hyenas coming, like it's a part within us that we've learned through culture, and through like our being of who we are as human society. But
I guess
it's being
I'm,
kidnapped now. It's being taken and thrown in our faces, and it's being used and weaponized against us, because we want to look out for our family. Sorry, I interrupted you, but we're trying to protect. If I'm a mother and I genuinely think that people in shirts and ties are going to unzip their face and they're actually a reptile and they're going to kill my kids, if that's legitimately what I think, of course I'm going to react dramatically to things like in the news, and all these like QAnon, and like all these rabbit holes on YouTube, and all these things, articles and whatever, and fake news or whatever. It convinces us that we need to be terrified. It convinces us that we need to watch out.
I will say there's definitely, I didn't realize it, but now that you're saying this, I'm sure there was a part of that experience where I saw what was happening and I had to think about whether it was a threat to me. And when I realized it wasn't a direct threat, like no one's coming to storm my house, my family's okay, everyone in my life is okay. Like it's bad that that's happening. Obviously, I feel for the people it's happening to, but like there's nothing I can directly do and it's not coming for me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I can relax a bit. And I didn't realize, but you're right. I think that's something that like, that was a thought that crossed my mind, that is it a threat to me? No. Okay. We can be okay. It's not happening to me.
But I think that our culture right now, that's not what happens. I think that we can recognize, I mean, we're very smart. We do understand, like, okay, I get that this isn't outside my window, but I think that we try to figure out, what could this mean? Does this mean that the government is doing this? Does this mean that now there's going to be riots in Portland, and I live closer to Portland? There's going to be riots in Seattle. I live closer to Seattle, and whatever. Our wheels get turning, and then we think our actions are like we're basically doing preventative maintenance. We're like stocking up our bunkers by like making sure this shit ain't coming at us. But every
Yeah.
single day, these news stations, because it's what sells, and they're not even just like the evil cabal who's trying to sell it. It's literally algorithms that are working. They're working us at this point. The algorithms are changing what we're doing and what we're saying, especially news anchors and shit. They're telling us like, here's what you should be afraid of. And it's formulating these big hypotheses of within people's minds of how things are going to play out in the next whatever amount of years. And like, I love using the Duncan Trussell concept of I've said this multiple times before on the podcast, but there's probably some dude right now sitting next to a beautiful waterfall who has no idea how pissed off he's supposed to be right now.
Yeah.
Like it is that, but then we have this very intelligent thing. We have this like really cool thing where I can see exactly what's going on a live stream. I can see what's going on in China right now in a live stream, and they can see what's going on in America right now. And if like it's interesting, but it's also, there's a part of me that's like making, if I was watching it, like if I saw a video being streamed of them, this is a corner that I don't want to be in, but of China launching some rocket at us or something, we'd be like, oh shit, like I'm the one who saw it. Like I need to let everybody know. I need to make sure all my family and friends know that we're about to die because there's a nuke coming or whatever. I think,
Direct threat.
yeah, so we have the inability, we have an inability to know whether things are direct threats or not right now. Like how can we as a society, as a culture, as again, I just like saying brothers and sisters, like we're all in this fucking thing together. Like Americans, even like, how do us as Americans decipher, like, is this a threat? Is this something that I need to attack? Is this something that I need to stamp out? Is this something that's important? Like what's important? How does this thing that's coming, I think, when and how will it ever possibly affect my daily lived actual life?
Yeah. And there's so much of like, how much of the news is what's actually happening, like maybe these bad things that we see are happening aren't, like they're just being portrayed as bad, or the other side is making them seem worse than they are, or they are happening along with other things that we're not seeing, or they're happening with things that we could change if we had saw them, or just like our entire experience is skewed. And so I was having a conversation the other day with I was out at breakfast and we're sitting there and it's beautiful day outside during COVID, beautiful day. We're sitting right next to a railing. We're sitting outside because she brought her dog. So I'm sitting there with her handsome little puppy and across from her, and we're both like very healthy people, and everyone in the restaurant is like properly spaced out, but like having a great Saturday morning. People in the park just playing, watching a dog like run around this little girl and just have so much fun. This family have so much fun. And I'm just like looking around and I'm like, this doesn't seem like the world that the news says it is, like this is great. Like this is a beautiful life and everyone else around me seems to be enjoying it. I don't know what's going on in their lives, but like everyone's smiling and everyone's talking and everyone's complimenting the dog and everyone's just like happy to be outside. Like it's not the reality that I'm seeing on the news,
Yeah. So how do we get less caught up with this just sack of misinformation and this sack of, basically I think what we need to get to as a culture is we need to stop believing any of that shit. Like we need to, it's vastly unhelpful to be most of the things that we care about on a day-to-day basis. If you're someone who watches the news, if you're someone who's like even really up in like pop culture, like I'm someone who I like pop culture. I like studying kind of like what's going on right now, what's going on. Oh, like what did Travis Scott say? What did Rihanna say? What did whoever. There is an enjoyable aspect to that, but there's something in our brains that we don't seem to remember. Like this is just what a person with an agenda, not always evil, just an agenda of their own life, of how they want to act things out and do things and achieve their own goals in their life. They just happen to be the ones that are in this location with a camera, in the networks, which are companies that we watch are choosing to put them on their network. That's not reality. That's just, here's a way in which you could see the world. And we're believing that is like, this is truth and everything else is fake news. Like that is an angle. That's a camera angle, bro. Not everything.
You remind me of the difference between the medium and the message. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
So the medium is, so the message is the content and the medium is how the content is delivered. And so what you're saying is like this, you have a person who has a message, but the message is being delivered through producers in a camera, through their like famous life of their experience. And like, that's the medium that it's, and you're receiving it like on your cell phone in your experience of life. Like the medium is how you receive it. And the message is the actual context or the actual, like what you should be receiving. And so maybe that's, I've never thought about it. So maybe that's like something to consider, that like the medium of the news is not the message. Because I have been ignoring the news, and I don't think that's healthy either. Like, you don't want to just ignore what's going on. And so I'm trying to find this balance of like watching the news, but watching with a grain of salt, you know, like understanding like this is what's going on. How do I feel about it before I see how someone else feels about it? Like, what is the medium I'm receiving it from? And like, what's the actual message I should get out of it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when you said that, because I find myself saying that too, you know, I don't really absorb much news, but then I also go through phases of like, dude, I can't just be totally oblivious to what's going on in the world. But I kind of wonder if maybe I should be more oblivious. Like I said, where you know you got to understand what's going on in the world. Well, the people who they've now proven for many years, the people who are telling us what's going on in the world and that what we should care about, they're not. I'm not going to say they're evil. I'm not going to say they're bad. They're a product of this like late stage capitalism. Like it's the way the definition of news in like what it should be is not the same definition of what news actually is. Like
Right.
what is news to us? And I could even say I can expand like maybe it's not the exact same word, it's not the same terminology, but like I legitimately get my news. I listen to podcasts, I listen to YouTube channels. I have like the majority of the news that I get and like the logical people that I listen to is from two evolutionary biologists who live in Portland. And like they talk about what's going on in the world. But other than that, like I don't really mess with like the news networks. But we have people who do mess with the news networks. We have people who do their entire reality, their entire view. They're looking through one of those kaleidoscopes, you know, and like it's what they see is completely different reality than what I see. And I think we have to recognize how much that actually paints and controls and affects and pulls our biological emotions because our emotions are actually felt in our bodies. Our like they're uh yeah our emotions are experienced in our body rather, I guess. And we're able to, you know, look at virtual reality. It's an extension of what this stuff is. We're able to put on headsets, we're able to look through these windows of technology, and it's able to affect our biological meat vehicle here. And we have to ask ourselves, like, if we're constantly feeling stressed out because of what we're seeing through the windows we're looking through, we've got to be like, damn, should I chill on looking through these windows a little bit? Like, or is there a way to I can glance through windows like with some sort of governor where I only give myself 15 minutes a day to look through these windows because I know that I'm going to want to protect my family and I'm going to get like addicted to making sure there's no missiles in the sky so I can protect my kids. You know, I,
Right.
I'm trying to bring compassion to the people who are so stressed out and so they think that everybody's out to get them and they think that like China is trying to fucking kill us and because I don't even know at this point. Like, who knows? It's all so complicated. But
They tell us you see China and like can trust them, but like China's also like putting on a facade and so much propaganda and they like hide everything from us. And it's just like, I
right.
don't know.
Yeah. I mean, but if we were in China and we're watching there, I mean, everything we've been told, I've never been to China myself. Everything we've been told is, you know, like they are, you know, the Chinese Communist Party, but what we know of as communists is represented in our like cocky American attitude of capitalism's the best way. Y'all need this kind of democracy, you know? Like we're so stuck up inherently as Western. That's just how people with Western minds think. Like we are kind of like our view of things is better. We can't look at benefits from other ways of running, you know, civilization. So uh, Jesus Christ, like what a wild thing we're experiencing here, you know? Like what a
I
really crazy thing.
I think it goes back to the technology. You're talking about how much should I expose myself to this window that I'm looking through? But we have so much technology, we have so many windows to look into. And it can just be overwhelming. And you can say, I'll watch the news with a grain of salt. Like I'll understand this with a grain of salt. But like, do you watch all of the podcasts that you watch with a grain of salt? Do you watch every YouTube video with a grain of salt? Do you watch everything that you experience, through every little window you look into, every encounter you have with a person, like they tell you one thing and you trust them, so you believe them. Like, should you believe them? Is what they're saying correct, or is what they're saying based on all the windows that they're looking into? Where does it come from? And like, at what point, like, how do we navigate? You know, there are so many windows, there are so many, and I don't know how to get the people who are watching the news all the time, I don't know how to get them less stressed, because they seem to live, and I'm just looking at like older people, because like my dad, his friends, my mom, her friends, things that those people do, just like paying attention to the news all the time, like even when you know you shouldn't do it. Like tons of people, when all the mask stuff started coming out, like just early March, tons of people told me like I've had to stop watching the news just because like so much mask drama, there's so much drama about COVID, there's so much this, there's so much that, and just like at some point it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. Yeah.
How much of the news is news, and then how much of it is just like repetitive? I agree with you having a time limit, because at what point are we just going to keep talking about the same person did the same thing, and it's so frustrating? Like, are you going to tell me what's happening in the world, and like people are generally more harmful to each other? Maybe I need to look out for that. You know, like shootings are going up in your area, like, oh my God, maybe I should be more careful about that. Until like, I want to hear that stuff. I want to know what's going on. I want to know that like, yeah, nukes aren't being launched at us right now. I want to know what's going on. But like, do I want to hear about someone who went out with a mask or without a mask? I mean, don't care. Yeah. Do I want to, you know, just like, I care about these things, and like, it's good to know, but like, at what point do you have enough stuff that's good to know? You know, like, how much of it is just stop, like, so much. It's hard that like, so much is good to know. Like, you should be informed, but also how much of being informed is actually helping you? Like, how much time am I spending wondering how I feel about Donald Trump, whereas that actually doesn't affect my life, you know?
I think it's probably most healthy to just not ever think about the motherfucker. Like,
yeah,
that is what's, I mean, that we're drowning in information, and I think because of all of this information, because we have all these different companies who are saying this one's the most important, no, this one's the most important, and then we have these algorithms who are saying this is the most important because this will get more people to watch it, and that we're like, okay, yeah, listen to that one's the most important. Then we're fighting. It's like we only have 24 hours in a day. I mean, it's hard enough to get done what we really want to do. I mean, like, I think like we get so much crammed in nowadays. Like, I'll watch, you know, multiple lectures or like listen to multiple podcasts. I'll get, you know, listen to a ton of music, get my own personal work done. I'll get workouts done. Like, you can get so much done in a day, but it's exhausting. Like, it's tiring, and you have to almost filter out like, okay, I just don't have time for this. I don't have time to listen to this. Like, I guess I hope that we exhaust ourselves on this news in some sense, or they realize like we're maddening our own society. Like, the news, what Abrielle, like what would you and I say, like, if we had like snap of a Thanos finger, and I've got you and I are at the head of 50 executives, and they're like the people who make the fucking calls in news networks, or they're the investors or whatever, and we're like, listen, y'all, you don't see what you're doing, but you are you're ripping apart the fabric of our society's lived experience and like ability to relate to one another. Here's what you can't be doing anymore. Like, what would we say to them? Like,
I think there's a lot of it comes from like, there needs to be news happening on this network at all times, like in case anyone tunes in. And I just like, if there's not news, then there's nothing to be on. Like, black screen, please. Like, unless, but it's hard because like people tune in at different times. So you always want to be talking about the same things. Like, did you hear about this thing that happened this morning that you weren't awake to hear about at 5 a.m.? Like, now you're here and we want to talk about it. But if you've been watching since 5 a.m., you're like, oh my God, they've already talked about this. Like, just stop. So I don't know the answer, but I think a lot of it comes from like, they want to keep you informed, but they want to keep talking so that there's more of a show and more money to make and more viewership. And as long as they can keep the news going all day, then they can have people watching all day. But like, if say that like the news happens from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., you watch it for 2 hours a day. Here's all the things that are going on. Thanks. We'll see you tomorrow. If there's like a news break, like in your area, there's a mass shooting right now. Like maybe that pops up on your phone and you like see it, but there's no like obsessing over the news. But then, you know, like people want things to stay in the news cycle and some things get skipped over and stuff like that. But I don't know, like, do we need it to stay there? Like, it's hard to say because like, we don't want to just pass over, you know, bad things that happen, like shootings that happens in anywhere. We don't want to just like forget about them and then keep moving on with our lives and not care about the people that it happened to. But also like, do we want to keep dwelling on it? And I don't know if it's dwelling, like if we keep thinking about it and we keep addressing it, then we can address the issue and hopefully solve a problem. But like, there are other things that we just keep addressing and like nothing's going to be solved by it. And it's not even worth continuing to address. So like, I don't know, maybe if I had the answer, that would be just like scheduled news times, like the newspaper. You read the newspaper and you're like, oh shit, all this stuff happened yesterday. Okay. Read it. Got it.
Yep.
Cool. Next day. Here's my news.
Work and you throw it in the break room so someone else can maybe read it.
Yeah. And we can like talk about it and stuff, and we can try and figure out the problem. And if it's something as insane as like injustice and things like that, like we can band together and continue the conversation. But for it to be like nothing is front page news every day, or that's not true, but most things aren't front page news every day. Like you don't see like Biden is president, Biden is president, Biden is president. There's constantly like something new that's happening. And so like for the news networks to just continue replaying the same things over and over, like they eventually have to talk about something. And so they just talk about nothing. And like, that's the part that's not news. And so I just turn off the show. Like if there's no news today, there's no news. Like the groundhog didn't see his shadow, then okay, thanks for letting me know.
Move on,
yeah. Like I don't know the answer. I don't know how to get people to be less stressed about it. And it's just such like a grain of salt thing. And it comes back to understanding. Like you have to understand yourself to understand what matters to you, and to be okay with like, if you see on the news that, I don't know, a lot of people are acting this way and believing this way and storming the Capitol building, don't surround yourself with people who are ridiculous that would do something so crazy like that. And don't be the type of person that would encourage that. And don't be the type of person that would do that. And encourage the people around you to be understanding and positive people. And the people around you won't do that. And if everyone convinces one person around them to not be that type of person, hopefully we would have a better society of better people. You know, like it starts with us.
I completely agree. Self-sovereignty is the way, and it's like the only option that we have. It's just each individual needs to look at their own train of thought and look at their own addictions to social media, to news, to these devices. And I'm saying that as someone who's very addicted to social media. I definitely am always on this damn thing too.
You and I both, you know it.
Yeah, 100%. We talk about this all the time. But I think, because as much as we want to say like, hey, snap out of it, like you got to help your friends snap out of it. Abrielle, these people literally think that, like this entire democracy is being, like the people who stormed the Capitol, a lot of them at that time anyway, they legitimately had the feeling, they had the belief, this is true. Like our democratic system is so corrupt that like the only real honest person that we've ever had in office has now been frauded out of the election. Like they legitimately believe that like there's this evil, all this stuff going on. And fuck, I don't even know at this point. Maybe they're right. It's like,
Exactly.
so their reaction is like what I'm pointing out, I think, is like these, like a lot of the conservative people often are people who are trying to actually protect the more liberal. They're trying to protect the softer people. They're saying like, here's a threat, bro, and I ain't the type to turn away from a threat. So I'm gonna get this lion. You go back in the hut. Like I got us. So they actually think that they're protecting their families in a certain way. But when you look at those videos, when you look at a lot of those videos from the Capitol Day, like the what made everything really weird to me, what made me not believe that they actually believe it, is the motherfuckers sitting with their feet up on their phones, or they're on Instagram Live. They're taking photos, like the guy taking a photo with the security guard, people chanting weird stuff. And this is a cool jump. I think you'll like this. Hopefully I can explain it correctly. Eric Weinstein has this proposition. He explained it really well. Actually, he was on Glenn Beck a couple weeks ago. And he talks about kayfabe. And kayfabe, if you don't know, you probably know. It's the thing in wrestling, like WWE, WWF, like that type of wrestling, not UFC, but it's the acting part of wrestling. Like when you go,
Okay.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he goes out. He doesn't come out as Dwayne Johnson. He comes out as The Rock. It's this character he's created for this second reality. It's LARPing. It's Amthgard. It's we have foam swords and we're playing the battle. What's going on, and Eric Weinstein explains this again way better than I can, but what's actually going on is our WWE version of what we think we're supposed to be doing in society is now running us. It's a runaway train. Like these people at the Capitol, they're doing this kayfabe thing. Those motherfuckers were LARPing the state capitol. And what's going on? Imagine you and I are in the ring, Abrielle, and we're fighting, and we're doing kayfabe, and we're putting on a show. I'm doing my secret moves. Do you smell what the Rock is cooking? We're yeah, come on, pumping up the crowd. People are pumped, and we do a thing, and I go to armbar you, and I mess up, and I hit you, and I puncture one of your lungs. But we still got these people. They're looking at us. We're performing. We're in this world where you can't break character on stage, bro. Like, get out of here. This is happening. You're getting paid for this. This is what reality is right now. You don't show any pain until you're backstage and the fans can't see you. Well, I punctured your lung now. And there's this thing that's going on in our reality with our politics, that we're running the lens of our actual daily lived experience through politics, through this kayfabe version, this WWE version of our actual reality. It's not UFC, it's WWE, it's acting. You can't even say to me, like, look me really in the eyes, we're in the ring. You can't be like, my lungs punctured. Like, we have to end this. My lungs punctured. Jake, please stop. Turn off your character. Like, take off your fucking cape and spandex for a second. My lungs punctured. I'm literally going to die. Like, you got to act still. You're here. Like, there was a woman who was murdered or killed. She was shot on the Capitol riots. And Eric talks about this too, again, for the third time. He explains this way better than I can. But like, he talks about this woman basically like runs at a gun. Like she clearly sees the gun. Like she knows what's going on. And then she gets killed. Her life is taken because she's in this reality of this kayfabe WWE. Like, hey, we're putting on this show. This is the politics thing. This is and it's, this is just zooming out from that. Like what I just explained, this WWE kayfabe thing. That is what we are stuck in as a culture, but we're unaware that we're in it, for one, and we're unaware how to break it. We're unaware how Abrielle could possibly communicate to me without breaking character that her lung is punctured and she's fucking dying. Like the human thing, the thing that doesn't matter if the human thing and the lungs aren't working, like that part is getting broken. That part's getting hurt. We're like hurting we need to pause the show. We need to be like, you guys, I'm sorry, everyone. Like, we're dying. Something's going on here. We've got to take an intermission. Like, we got to slow down this politics thing. But we're vastly unable to see it. I'm sorry to go off on that sprint, but
No,
I wanted to
I
explain
love
that.
it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love what you're saying. And I think that's what's going on, is that we are all in this social media and all in this news media and on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and just like acting the way that we think we're supposed to act and how society wants us to act, without stopping and realizing like what we are as human beings and how we actually feel. I think that's such a great observation. I think that's what it is. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, that, like, I feel like that's the closest. Dude, I think, are you cool with me using this Abrielle for my sense making sickness series? Are you? We can talk about this after, but like, I would like to use this as episode 2 because I feel like we kind of did expand on some good thoughts there.
I don't know what it is, but sure.
Yeah, basically, it's just, I explained, like, just basically, it was me and my friend Spencer, and I was going to do some solo ones and like maybe have other guests, just like a part series of just trying to figure out what the hell's going on and how can we solve it without pointing fingers, making bad others. How can we solve it as like, this is our culture, these are our brothers and sisters, these are our friends. Like, why are our uncles like insufferably hard to talk to now because they're so obsessed with this person? Why are people so woke that they don't, like, they're so offended before you even get to the start of a conversation? You know, we're so far-fetched because we're in our leotards, man. We're in our wrestling boots.
And it's even people who aren't on social media, like the effect of it's social media and news media, like everything, because social media bleeds into news media, but it also bleeds into just real life. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like my parents aren't on social media, but they absorb the news and they hear from my brother and I about what's, you know, like we teach my mom what a meme is and what the popular, like the Bernie Mittens meme. And I just send them tons of it because they don't see it. And I'm like, Bernie's a meme. And my mom's like, I know what this means now. And so like, it comes out. Yeah.
I get that. I know what that means.
Yeah. And so it lives in our phones and it should stay in our phones, but it comes out because we're trying to live these identities that we think we should be doing and living. And we see these, you know, like even people who look like they're benefiting us, like Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, who's it, Tony Robbins, like, we see these things and we're like, oh shit, I should be an entrepreneur. I should be working on myself. I should be doing all these things, you know, like, fuck this person who's putting me down. Like, I need to care about myself. I need to love myself. I need to do all this and this first. And then we bring that out into our experience with other people. And we're like, you should care about yourself. Put yourself first, bro. Like, think about, like, you need to pull yourself up and be confident, be this, because like we're hearing it from the internet and the other people. And we're really just trying it on. Like, we're really just seeing this and, you know, trying to act like that's how we're supposed to act. You know, like we see these people, we look up to them and like RIP, Kobe Bryant, like the Mamba mentality. We see this and we're like, we should have the Mamba mentality, like wake up early, do our shit, never give up, all this kind of stuff. But like, if you don't have the discipline and the type of personality to be that way, living the Mamba mentality can be a lie for you. Like, and then you just feel like you're being fake. And then you feel it's overwhelming because you feel like you have to do all these things and finish them to completion and all this kind of stuff. And like, maybe that's not who you are. And not to say that's right or wrong. Like, for some people it doesn't work. I know, like in myself, I call it my discipline demon. Like, even if I don't want to work, I work. Even if I don't want to go to the gym, I go. Even if I don't want to do something, like, even if I don't want to wake up, like something pulls me out of bed and makes me go. Like, it's my discipline demon. Like, I can't stop. I can't quit. Even if I don't like what I'm doing, I have to keep going. And it just, if I'm upset, no matter what's going on in my life, like I have to push myself. I will keep going. I will always keep going. It's just my discipline demon. Some people don't have that. And some people like look at me and they're like, you're a hardworking, successful, like you're doing great for where you are. Like, I need to try on some of the things that you're doing. And they get stressed out because that's not who they are. And like, we see these things we take our social media into the world. We're just seeing so much influence that we try and take it all into the world. And we're just a bunch of people acting like who we think we should be acting instead of trying to figure out who we actually are.
Right. Yeah. No, that's pretty powerful. I think that's exactly what's going on too. It's like we fail to realize that we truly are at different spots in our own paths, but that we have our own individual paths. Like what works for me, I'm always trying to, like with the podcast, I'm trying to always push people into like what's near you, like what makes sense to you, like what's going to heal you. Like I'll explain, hey, here's what, like meditation worked for me, yoga worked for me, CBD, cannabis, like these are things that worked for me, and I'll explain them. But I hope that what happens is people look for what's something like that in my own life, not exactly that, like what's like, instead of trying to be the best, you have to just try to be your best. That's
For
really
sure.
as simple as it is. We like, look at one of the most common words in our young culture now, goat, greatest of all time, goat. Like, this is the goat. Like, he's the best. He's the best at what he does in his field. But then you're like, how do I compare me to these entire people in this field? But like, maybe you don't even fucking belong in that field. So why are you comparing yourself? Like, what you got to do is put your head down and get to work. And then wherever you land is wherever you land. And then people can call you the goat in your field, but that's not up to you to call yourself, in a way.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of, like there's this push right now to be an entrepreneur and like you should start your own business and be a hustler and do all these kinds of things. But like, if we have all these leaders, if we have so many leaders in society, like who are you leading if you have no followers? Some people are not meant to be entrepreneurs. Some people are not meant to be leaders, and that's totally okay. Like some people either aren't built for it, aren't ready for it, or just that's not their place. Sometimes being a follower brings other followers and brings a movement. You don't have to be a leader. You don't have to have your own business. Being an employee is not like the worst thing that can happen to you, like right. Employment comes with benefits sometimes. But I mean, like, there's this push for what I feel like our generation to have our own companies, be independent contractors, run our own businesses, become these entrepreneurs, make our own money, make a living for ourselves. And it's just like, sometimes that's not what you should do for yourself. And you have to figure out, when you say should, that indicates an expectation. So what you should do for yourself, you have to find out what that means, like what is right for you, what feels right for you. And it's just a lot of like trying it on. If you're an entrepreneur for years and like nothing is working and you work for someone else and you are living a great life, feeling great, maybe that's what's right for you, And there are some people who are just lazy, like innately lazy. And maybe instead of kicking them in the ass, maybe we just allow them to be lazy. Like, I don't want to condone that ever, like the weak and lazy part of society. I'm definitely the first one to be like, kick yourself in the ass, let's go. Like I'm a hard person like that. Get your discipline demon, we're going. Yeah, exactly. Stay hard. Like I fight between stay hard and be compassionate. Like, so
stay hard.
So it's just, but we make fun of people who are sheep, but there would be no shepherds if there were no sheep, I
think there's also some wolves in shepherd's clothing going on too. I think that I don't know. I mean, I guess I just want to say like, we need to follow our own paths. We need to challenge ourselves, but we need to follow our own paths. I think Gary Vee does do a good job of like he posts plenty of videos. I'll see, he has a lot of entrepreneur, like encouraging of people like, bro, just like eat top ramen and work a lot. And then he'll have other times where he's like, if you don't cut it, then you don't cut it. Like, listen, what's going on? You're not meant to be a CEO if you're not meant to be a CEO, maybe. But and the thing is, I think it's important to point out, bro, maybe you're a right-hand man. Like maybe
Yeah.
maybe you're the Steve Wozniak. You ain't Steve Jobs. Maybe you don't have to be like the genius prick. Like maybe you could be his homie who gets his tech in the right places, or well, I don't know Steve Wozniak's entire role with Steve Jobs, but he was one of the ones that helped facilitate it. Like me, I'm a creative person, but when it comes to like business and like getting things perfectly, like I struggle with all the, the business stuff, you know.
Yeah,
You got to
I
like
know.
recognize kind of who you are, like what I mean. There's things that I don't want to stick my head in the sand and say that I'm this forever. Like I'm not good at business side of things. I'm just good at creating, and I'll never be good at it because I do want to improve these things and try. But I'm not gonna like try for the rest of my life and never admit to myself, man, I really never got that rocking and rolling. That was just something that I was trying. I was trying to fit myself into this puzzle, and I never was that shape. I was never that shape, and I couldn't admit it to myself.
So true. It's so true. So much of it is just like, maybe it's just like a lack of authenticity. We're all just trying to be this fake version of who we think we should be rather than trying to fit into who we actually are. And
Trying to be
not
the Undertaker. We're trying to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. We're trying to be the Rock, and we're just Dwayne Johnsons.
so true.
Oh, I'm embarrassed that I just said that actually, but
It's okay. I can identify with Dwayne Johnson. That's fine. I'll be him any day.
I identify as a Dwayne Johnson. Don't assume my status.
Yeah, no, but I think that's so real. Like, and that goes along with all the surface level stuff that we're experiencing, because we're just experiencing the shell of the person that they think they're supposed to be right now. They're upset about what they think they're supposed to be upset about. They know what they think they're supposed to know. They're involved in all the channels they think they're supposed to be involved in. They follow who everyone else follows, who they think they're supposed to be following, because we're all just trying these things on. We're going with the collective movement. Everyone else is doing this thing. Maybe I should be doing this thing too. And that's like a thing of human nature, is we follow the crowd. We think we are supposed to follow the crowd when we really need to take a step back and be like, what is all this stuff doing for me?
Right.
What is it building in myself? How am I building a personality around this? What is my identity becoming from this, you know?
Right. Yeah. Like, what am I trying to get from this? What am I trying to gain from this? Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Is this how I learned that I get love? Is this how I learned that I belong? I'm one of these people and I agree with these things and I post these things so I can get these likes from my echo chambers or my tribalistic group. I think that we, just like a young kid, you talk about childhood trauma or something, they talk about, or even, maybe not even trauma, but if when you were a girl, you threw fits, and then that was the only time that your mom would pick you up and take you to the side and say, I love you, honey. It's okay. I know I've been showing your brother a lot of attention, and I know that you were the only child and whatever. And you're like, oh, it feels good. Mom's picking me up. Oh, yeah. But then if an emotion becomes a mood, becomes a personality, if you hold on to that, then you could be this grown adult version of like, all right, how do I get love? I throw a fit so mom picks me up and says she loves me. And then now you're one of those people who, like, every time you get drunk, you beat the fuck out of your boyfriend or something,
Yeah, no, it's, oh my gosh, I don't know. You had me thinking of something, but I lost it. But it's just so much of, okay, the mood becomes the personality, but you can turn it around in that, like, what is the first thing? What comes before mood?
Emotion.
Okay, so gratefulness. So you start with something, gratitude, like building the practice of gratitude. What I've been doing is I write down like one thing I'm thankful for. And it's just one thing. I've seen people write 5 things, write a whole journal, write 3 things, whatever. But I just pick like one thing I'm thankful for. And it doesn't even have to be something big. It can be something like, like I'm just thankful I have a cell phone and I'm able to talk to you today. Like literally just anything. Like, thank goodness, I was able to eat a great meal today, just whatever it is. And just doing that more, being in that, I have the emotion of gratitude from that one experience, that puts me in a better mood of more gratitude. And it's become my personality to be more grateful. Like just that little practice, instead of when I see things and I look at the negative about it, instead I look more for like, what's the good and how can I be grateful for it? And yes, this bad thing is happening, but like, look at all the great things that are also happening around us. You know, that's now the way my mind works, and that's part of my personality.
Yeah, I really like that. I actually want to add on top of that, everything you just said, pristine, but I think, or not a but just add the word practice onto it. For me, a gratitude practice. Like I have a friend who we were just talking about. He's like, you know, he doesn't fully believe. I don't think he has like a religious denomination or whatever. But he's like lately when I lay down in bed, like the last couple months, it's been helping me a lot with stress. I pray. I go over the things that I'm grateful for, and he doesn't pray as in like God, please give me these things or whatever. He just kind of talks to, you know, whoever might be listening in his head or, you know, whatever. And he brings up gratitude, and he brings up, you know, things that he's excited about that are going to happen in his life. And whatnot. He says it helps him a lot. And so I think a gratitude practice is very helpful. And I think we can all benefit from that. Instead of spending, you know, 45% of your waking hours looking through the window of like catastrophic events that MSNBC has told you that are important, you need to look around and look like your lens needs to be just your eyes, and your window needs to be your eyes, you know, and look around and say like, what am I grateful for? Like, wow, like what a blessing that I have like a podcast where I can have these open conversations. What a blessing that I have this room. Like what a wonderful spot for a creator like me to be able to make art here. Like, wow, I have like, you know, very expensive DJ equipment, and like you know, I know how to use it. Wow, like I'm so grateful for that. So I think a practice of like noticing, ooh, I've been in a bad mood, or ooh, I've been watching a lot of news, or ooh, I've been whatever, and then instead saying, I need to negate that. I need to do less of that and do more of this. And the gratitude is just being grateful for the things in your surroundings. And then one more thing, meta loving kindness meditation. So you can learn this. Sam Harris has the app Waking Up. I think it's like 114 a year, but if all you have to do if you want it for free, is you just email them and no questions asked, they'll give you the app for a free year. So Waking Up app, and he has a whole it's helped me greatly because I'm someone who gets caught in obsessive loops. So meta practice, you literally go and it's a 10-minute meditation, and you focus on your breathing. And then you slowly just bring up, you know, people in your life. Like, you know, you bring up someone like you don't have a complicated relationship with. You bring up just like, wow, what's one of my good friends? And then you just kind of, try to like visualize them. Try to think about like, what is, you know, your good childhood buddy, like name him. Cool. Yeah, he's naming in your head. You're like, oh yeah, I love that motherfucker. Like he's awesome. You know, we've had some good times together. Maybe think of some memories. And you start envisioning your friends smiling, you know, and the guided meditation walks you through these sort of things. All right, bring another person in your life. Like, you don't go for anybody difficult if you've dealt with any trauma or anything, like that can come later, but, and it calms you. And so what happens in these is you actually like, you'll have kind of releases in your body of like, and you'll kind of feel these rushes of warmth. Like and these are biochemical responses happening. Like, so you can practice gratitude and feel physical changes in your body. Whereas, you know, when we're mad, there's a physical change in our body. We get all tensed up. The same thing we get when we're cold. Our shoulders hunch up. And when you're mad, these things happen. You're allowing a physical fear response to happen within your body by fucking Fox News. But you're not willing to sit down for 10 minutes a day and allow the thoughts of the people who have brought love and your ability to be grateful for them, to bring them up. And it really basically meta loving kindness meditation, it's fantastic. I highly recommend it for anybody. You literally feel inner releases and inner warmths. Sometimes it could take like a couple days in a row if you're really kind of, you know, been out there. For me, it's taken a couple days where I'm like, I guess I feel kind of better. But then consecutively a few days, you know, on your fifth day, you're like, oh my God, I think this is what Jesus feels like. I feel so wonderful right now. And I love my friends so much. I'm going to fucking call all of them. You know, you're like, it's just this high of gratitude. And I think gratitude can heal so much of what's going on in the world. I really do.
I like to look at my life sort of in the entire spectrum of my life. So like I see myself as a 26-year-old now, but like I see myself as all of the experience I've had and all the experience I'm going to have and don't know about. And so like when I'm upset in a situation, I'm always looking for like, how will this affect my future, and where is this feeling coming from my past? And I feel like that helps me a lot to sort of like take myself out of the situation and be like, let's look at this. You know, like when I get into arguments with somebody, I look at the entirety of our friendship and I'm like, where did this come from, and how is it going to affect us moving forward? And when we move forward, what are we going to look back on this and like see it as? And I do that in the moment. I'm fortunate enough to like be able to see things that way, because I see, like in my relationship, I see the entirety of my relationship. I see where it came from and hopefully where it's going. And what is this conversation right now like going to, like when we look back on it, like what is it going to look like in the future? And I just think of like a lot of my gratitude comes from being able to objectively look at my life, like just step back and be like, here's where I am in this lifespan. Here's where I am. Things are pretty good. Like there's some bumpiness along the road, but like, thank goodness for all of that. And like, I'm such in a good place now that that the rest of my life, I'm sure will be pretty good, because I have the outlook of it being pretty good. Even when bad things happen, like things are still pretty good. Even like I don't even want to say it, but even when my parents pass away, like my life is still pretty good. Like I don't even know, like I could lose my apartment and lose my family and lose my relationship and lose my cats, but like at least I still have my friends. Maybe I lose all my friends. At least I still have my health. At least I still have the ability to figure things out, you know? There's just, number one, it's not so serious. And number two, like the lifespan is so long. The experience of right now is so short. And like to be able to look at it and be like, this is so bad and so stressful and this is so negative. It's just like, but look at all of these experiences and what is this one doing for you right now? And I don't see how people can't be grateful, and how we can just live in these shells of who we think we should be for society.
Yeah. We keep living as our kayfabe characters, our WWE representations of ourselves. Yeah, I think that is very important to remember. That's something you and I both do that not a lot of people do, is going meta on your own life, essentially. Like able to pull up the fact that like loss right now hurts and it's pain and emotions are real and like agonizing and you know, often very intense and very hard to like think of more than just this moment and this pain that I'm experiencing. But when you really go meta and you back up, you can remember like, oh, you know, okay, just as a low-hanging fruit example, you know, if your friend passed away, like what you remember, you're of course sad. Like you don't get to have any more memories with them. But what is the reason why you're so sad is because you have already had many memories with them. And it's not about being able to hold them and take them and bring them somewhere or anything, or you can have them for infinity and you get to bury them with you when you're dead or whatever. It's like, that is what life has been. That is what your life is those experiences that you had with your friend, with your companions, with the loved ones, with the people around you, your family. You're like we mourn for the loss of our comfortability in the moment, and that overshadows and really puts this dark, ugly shadow on the beauty of our lengthy ass lives. You know, like if I died tomorrow, you know, like I've experienced some great things. Like I hope I get a lot more years. You know, it's the same reason why we're upset when a young person dies, when a young child dies, because we're like, man, he didn't even get to have a 12-year-old best friend yet. You know, and he passed away. That is terrible. But we got to realize why we'd be angry. You know, or an older person, you're like, oh, you know, he lived. Oh, he's ready to go. He's happy. He's fulfilled. You know, he's going out with a smile on his face. Yeah, he lived a good life. You know, we're always trying to take stock of the right now, and say that that's us, but we've got to be able to expand on our lives and say, like, what is this whole thing? What have I been able to experience? So
I love what you just said. We mourn for our comfortability in the moment. I wrote it down. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so, so true. And it's when we step back and look at our entire life, like, that pain was necessary to push us to this next step that we can see. Because when we pull back and we can see our entire life and all of our experiences, that bump in the road was so important. And it was so important for us. We went so low, and in the moment, like, we felt so bad, but it was so necessary for us to feel that way, because then we moved to this point, and this point had all of these effects. And it's just, I agree, we mourn for our comfortability in the moment, but when we pull back and see it, like, some of it is all of it is so necessary. Our experience of life is so necessary, and to be able to feel it, experience it, and see it for what it really is in the lens of our whole lifespan, like, it's so important. And God, my gosh, it would help so many people if they thought that way.
I feel like I'm just hearing, I've listened to a lot of Ram Dass. I'm just hearing his voice go, like, oh man, I almost lost it. That's just your dharma, or that's just your dharma. Like that's your life. This is what it is. Like, don't you get it? Like, there isn't more than this. This is the thing. Like, we think we're getting somewhere. We're going to catch this carrot on a stick, but it's not there. It's never been there. This is it. This is the thing right now.
It's so true.
This is your dharma.
Stressing about whatever is happening and when does it get easier and when does this and when does that. It's just, you have to figure it out how to make it easy now. Like, what you're going through, like, you need to navigate it now, because it doesn't get easier. You feel the pain and understand how to deal with it. And that's what makes it easier. Like, feeling your life is what makes it easier, not numbing yourself from the experiences that you are inevitably going to have.
Yeah. Like, numbing yourself from that experience, that goes right back to that comfortability. Like, where, my interior is feeling pain right now. So, like, how can I be most comfortable? I mean, I have my own addictions for sure, and I have had them even worse with other things in the past. And, like, I know exactly how that goes. It's like so many layers deep. You're starting to feel something, and you just say, ooh, how can I be more comfortable in this moment, rather than how could I assure that I live a fully 360-degree lived, fulfilled life? We want to be comfortable right now, but that means we're always trying to get somewhere. And then we realize at the end, like, oh, fuck, I forgot to look over my shoulder this whole time. Like, oh, dang, 80 years, oh, dang it. Forgot to look back and be grateful. Gratitude is probably one of the most important things. I was thinking, we're getting pretty up here in time. I appreciate you hanging with me. I don't know if you have anywhere else to be, but I was thinking, also, I apologize for not asking your time frame before we got going. That's unprofessional of me too. But I was curious, the first thing that you wrote down on your paper that we started with, can we loop back to that? Is that sensible? What did it say again? Is that a good way to wrap this up?
A majority of the human experience is relaying and relating to people, and I don't feel like we're doing that. So yes, that comes from wow. We are not relating to people because we are acting as who we think we should be rather than acting as who we are. Cool. And when we are not who we are in ourselves, we are not able to connect with anyone else.
Oh my God. I'm dropping the mic drop. That is so dope. Isn't that, wow. Yeah. That's, I've talked about how with these arguments, left, right, I'm this, I'm that, I'm blue, I'm red, whatever, like, these arguments, they do have this innate, it's hard to put your finger on, but it's like, are you guys making eye contact, or are you yelling above each other's heads? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not, you're like, oh man, you're just missing the person stuff though, and that's what it is. Where we have these little, like a little Pokemon above our head, and like my Blastoise is trying to shoot at your Venusaur, but like, we got to forget that we're not the fucking Pokemon. We're not Pokemon trainers, man. We're humans pretending to be Pokemon trainers.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's so true. And it definitely comes back to that. Our human experience is defined by how we relate to other people, because it helps us define ourselves. And if we're too busy acting like people who we aren't, we don't figure out who we are and aren't able to actually connect with anybody.
Wow. It's time for collective healing, y'all. Dude, oh man, I love how that came full circle. I feel like that was like it was so good, just pristine. Abrielle, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for your time. I'm totally going to use this for my sense making sickness series. I'll send you the link to the other one, and we'll talk about this after. But thank you for allowing me to stumble through. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for being awesome. Thank you for being my friend. You're just an awesome person anyway. I love having these talks with you. We get going pretty good we'll get texting and messaging back and forth with a lot of these concepts. So it's
always nice to actually talk.
Yeah, dude, it is. And then, I feel like the Zoom calls, I'm always a little butthurt. I'm always like, it's not as good as in person. I can't really connect with them. But I mean, after just a few minutes, it's just a normal, it's pretty authentic. It feels nice. It's okay.
I think so too. And I appreciate you, Jake. You're always the person who I feel like I can authentically go to and like relate to. And it's because we have that, just like, we're not trying to be any facade of any other people to each other. Like we are just, I always ask you about your human experience, and that's what we talk about.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that about you.
Yeah. Thank you, Abrielle. I mean, and you even like working with me to where you have to be like, Jake, here's your deadline. Like you have to hit the business side of me, and you have to like rein in creators, which is just a wonderful, like a job you have a gift for sure. But yeah, we can meet each other on all these levels, and it's awesome. And so I'm glad that we covered a lot of the things that we covered today. I think I asked you last time what the world needs more of right now, right? I think I ended that.
The world needs more authenticity, more compassion, more understanding. That's what I want to see. More of understanding yourself, being compassionate to yourself, like allowing yourself to feel feelings, allowing yourself to struggle, allowing yourself to take a day off from the gym, allowing yourself to skip in your diet, just like
be wrong.
Be wrong. Like, it's okay. You're not right about everything. Yeah. Be wrong, be silly, be ridiculous, be annoying, like be whatever you want to be, like be whatever you are, and understand that, and then bring that understanding to other people, and just spread that understanding, kindness, compassion, authenticity, transparency, vulnerability, all the things.
Okay. Would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I'll go with a horse-sized duck, because 100 duck-sized horses all have hooves.
I mean, I feel like imagine how heavy one horse-sized duck would truly be. How would you fight that? Haven't you thought about this? Don't you lay awake at night wondering about this, dude?
I think I'm going to go with the one enemy rather than 100 little enemies. I don't know. There was an episode of something. I don't know what it was. Some anime thing that my boyfriend was watching, and it was fighting this enemy that he couldn't see. It was a very small thing, and I think I'd rather fight something I can see that's very large, a big target, big moving target. I know where my target is. I'll go with the horse-sized duck. It's feathers.
All right. Respect. If I ever encounter a horse-sized duck, I'm calling you up. I'm gonna ask you what do I do, man?
Don't bank on me having the answer.
And you're like, Jake, are you on LSD right now?
That'll be my first question.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Listeners, take care of yourself. Drink some water. Love yourself. Practice gratitude. Practice compassion. And thank you for hanging with us. If you hung with us this far, check out Abrielle. I'll link a couple of her things. And we also have another podcast together for more of her like personal life and her work. So check that out as well. Have a good day. Abrielle, I'll talk to you right after this. Bye.
At what age do we learn how to have better conversations? At what age do we learn to have better conversations with ourselves?
But how could we make better sense of it all?